Yes.
Shit. I really wanted to talk about ARP, though.
Oh, we will.
Oh, we will.
But will we?
Oh, we will.
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
You can't.
Results unclear. Results unclear. Ask again later.
Dean, what hardware are you vaping on these days?
Right now, I'm just using a Smoke Novo 2.
That's nice. Does that use the Saltnik?
It depends on what pod you get. I use the 1 ohm pods, so yeah. But if you sub ohm, you want to use regular juice.
Okay.
Saltnik, when it gets too hot, does weird shit chemically.
Ah. How do you like Saltnik versus not juice?
I like it. I like it. It tends to throat hit a little harder, and I smoke fewer cigarettes when I'm on the around 25 milligram Saltnik. If I'm up to the 50 milligram Saltnik, I actually smoke more. But at 25, I don't feel the need to smoke cigarettes very often.
What's up, Red? I've got the Geek Vape Novo mod, I want to say. And it's doing this nice thing where every time I go to take a draw, it's like, it looks like the resistance of your coil has changed. Is this a new or the old coil?
Oh my god.
And it doesn't matter which one I select, it doesn't change the resistance. But then it lets me take a draw, and then I have to do it again the next time.
That is the most annoying thing.
Yeah.
Have you done the tweet yet?
Oh, no, I haven't. Thank you for the reminder.
You should do the tweet.
I should.
We gotta blast it to everyone everywhere. Twitter, Discord, Instagram,
Instagram,
MySpace.
I think the last couple episodes, the bot has not been posting on Discord. Okay, now I have twat. What's the
I have twot.
quote?
We have Twittered.
Yeah, that was supposed to be TWOT, and then I realized after I said it that that's not how it sounded.
The Twitch twat.
Yeah.
Twat.
All right, I will retweet.
I have retweet. All right, now that all the social media stuff is out of the way, let's continue to faff about.
Oh. I did show titles, but I didn't do podcast intros. Whoops.
Rip.
Oh no.
I suggest for ease of use, either going with number 24 or ARP.
Yes.
I didn't pay enough attention to ARP.
Number 24 it is.
I could only think of one thing for a title for number 24. And it will make complete sense in about an hour and a half. You'll be like, yep.
That's pretty good.
That too is the only thing that
Here we go. We're going the incredibly lazy route with these intros.
Nice.
All right.
Yeah, I've actually got a couple of titles for a couple of the shows too. You mean?
Oh, great. Thanks, Dean. Now there are going to be 2 claps on the track. I don't know which one to use.
I have no idea which one is the clap.
You jerk.
I had to kill a bag.
Kill bag. So a terrible attempt at a cross-language pun, where I might not even be getting the word right. But would you call a dead bug a sheen sect?
Oh my god.
Okay. Incredibly bad, lazy intros written.
Nice.
Awesome. This behind-the-scenes Twitch content is brought to you by viewers of the Twitch
Man, you...
for being here on twitch.tv.
Very, very big cutouts happening.
Yeah.
Great. Awesome.
My pet theory at the moment is the internet is just too powerful and it's overwhelming whoever's hosting. Just too much bandwidth.
We could
That's
try...
possible.
We could try switching to US Central, I guess.
No, I'm going to try moving the microphone a lot closer to my face.
I think it also could be, it sounds like it's modulating a lot. So it could be cutting from that.
I wasn't paying attention earlier, but did you say that you were trying to tweak the Discord like auto cutoff, the gain cutoff?
No, I was doing that in Reaper.
Okay.
Speaking of, your gain is actually a little high. You might turn it down
Yeah,
a tad.
that's what I'm saying. It's like really, it's really modulated. So that could be part of the reason for the clipping.
No audio.
I haven't touched these settings in a long time, so I'm not sure what to tweak.
That sounds better.
Okay, well, I will just have the microphone closer to my face then. And hope.
If it keeps happening, you might try going into your Discord settings and adjusting the cutoff.
Oh, that's a good.
Because it could be picking up fine on your end and just dropping on ours because of Discord settings.
There we go. Input sensitivity was set to automatically determine, and I have turned that off.
Cool. We'll see if that helps.
All right.
All right. Shall we get started then?
Yeah.
Welcome to AniFiles, episode 85, the podcast which is going through puberty and thinks boys are gross. I'm your host, the Fujo Bait Athletic Boy number 1, Ryan. With us today we have the Fujo Bait Athletic Boy number 2, Chris.
I'm gonna try my best.
Fujo Bait Athletic Boy number 3, Dean.
I would really like to go with you.
And Fujo Bait Athletic Boy number 4, special guest Adam.
Right, whatever you say, boss.
And we're here.
I think this podcast may be the opposite of Fujo Bait. But I'm not entirely sure about that.
You look up in thesaurus.com Fujo Bait, and it's like, what is it? Antonyms?
Yeah, antonyms. And then just like pictures of
AniFiles.
us. The cast of AniFiles is not considered Fujo Bait.
We're here to talk about some anime. But first, Here's how we rate the shows.
Here's how the AniFiles rating system works. Our hosts and guests have watched the first episode of the shows we're talking about today. Based on only that first episode, we'll answer 5 yes or no questions. Did the premise interest you? Did the production impress you? Did the storytelling impress you? Did you enjoy the first episode? Did the first episode make you interested to see more? The way we interpret the word impress can make the AniFiles rating system tougher than some. Being decent or merely good won't be enough to stand out, and some of us may have higher standards than others. Each question answered yes earns the show 1 point, adding up to a total between 0 and 5 per host. All of our scores are then combined to derive a cumulative score between 0 and 100%, letting you know at a glance if we collectively liked the show. And now, let's get to our first show.
All right, the first show we have to talk about is Hatena Illusion. Chris, will you tell us about this show?
Yes. So Hatena Illusion is about a young lady who, in the beginning, we see a sort of a flashback to when she was probably a few years younger. We don't know exactly how long, but she is asking her mom why her mom needs to go away to do things. And she's kind of like, stay around. I'm going to miss you, blah, blah, blah. The typical children. Am I right? And the mom is like dressed up like some sort of magical girl thief, basically. Kind of like, it looks kind of like
magical woman.
Yes, true. Yes, I'm sorry. Magical woman.
I interrupt your synopsis to bring you this commercial from Funimation, which happened in the middle of the intro sequence.
Wow.
Oh my god.
Hi. So yeah, her mom is sort of dressed up in like the very sort of kind of reminds me of Sailor Moon, kind of like the sort of magician get up, kind of like formal wear, but also like very showy, etc. Anyway, so she is going off to be a thief. I guess she's got some prize that she wants to claim. So she's like, I'm gonna go and super thief whoever I am is off to claim her prize, and so she leaves. Cut to a few years later, and our MC is very excited because her childhood friend, whose name I forget, is Makoto, is going to be coming to stay with them for a little while because they want to learn how to be an illusionist from MC's dad. So apparently both her parents are magical sorts. And so they live in this big old mansion, probably off of the money that mom stole throughout the years, and or the income of our illusionist father, who I guess has a very successful show business or something. I don't know. It's not really clear. It's very loud typing.
Apologies.
No worries. And so the Makoto san shows up at the house, and our MC is very excited to see them. And as they're talking, they sort of or Makoto is like, hey, so dad character san, I'm here to learn magic. He's like, cool, I will teach you the magics. And so he's going to become their apprentice. Oh, I just gave it away. Turns out the Makoto, known to the audience but apparently unknown to MC, is a boy. And she finds this out because the maid character, in order to rather than just telling her, despite everyone's protestations that they're a boy, she's like, okay, I'm just gonna have to prove it to you this way. I apologize in advance. Grabs her hand, puts it on Makoto's chest, and she's like, wait, nothing? Which, it's like kind of insulting if actually she was a girl and just hadn't really developed yet. But anyway, so she finds out that he's a boy, and she freaks the hell out, and she's like, a boy can't stay with us. And she kind of like wants to take back all their years of friendship, apparently, because I guess she just didn't understand it. Just
because she's insane.
No one along the way, throughout the entire time they spent as children growing up, etc., no one told her what his gender was. So yeah, that's a thing. So he's gonna be staying in the attic, and when he's getting settled into his room, he cleans everything up, and everyone's like, "Oh wow, you're really good at cleaning." And then throughout the course of conversation, he bumps into a shelf of some sort, or a wardrobe, or whatever it was, and a jar falls off. And apparently, this jar was one of the many artifacts that MC's mother had collected over the years. And it doesn't look that fancy, but apparently it was quite rare and valuable. So he's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Allow me to pay for it." And it's like, "Okay, well, I don't think you can afford it, but you can become a butler in training, and you can work during your time here to pay off that vase."
Can work with the other butler whose name is Butler Butlerson.
Yes.
Or may as well be.
Jeeves Woodhouse is his name.
Yeah.
And so, they ask Jeeves if that'd be okay, and he says it is. And so, the next day he puts on a nice butler suit that they just, I guess, either ran out to grab that night or happened to have handy for no particular reason.
No reason.
Yeah, and so they start his training, and so they also want MC to take him out on the town to show him around. And she is resistant to this, but it's like, well, you've got nothing else going on, and we're all busy, doing work things, so you're gonna take him. And she's like, fine. And they're like, good, we are starting the romance. So they go out, and they remember a time when a dog was threatening them, and he was so cool because he was being brave and protecting her with his magic wand. And then we get this cutaway and hear this yelping, and we're not entirely sure what happened to that dog. I want to imagine that he had his first murder that day, killed an animal, and that scarred him for life in a way that we're going to find out in a few episodes. I don't know.
It's the anime adaptation of Don't Fuck with Cats.
And throughout the episode, we see this little wand that he has, which is apparently given to him by MC's mom. Turns out that it's actually one of her artifacts, but he uses it in kind of like a very sort of street magician, stage magician sort of way. Like, makes cool things come out of the air and makes things appear, et cetera, et cetera. So perhaps more magical than just the illusion. Or maybe it's not. We don't know. They kind of implied everything they're doing is just illusion, including when dad character literally flies off to go do whatever he's going to do while he's away. Anyway.
I think they're trying to imply that magic is real, but only a few people know about this.
Right.
And so it's absolutely wink and illusion. Wink, right. Wink, I'm going to fly off into the sky.
Yeah,
that's what I got from it too. Is magic is real, but we can't let people know. A couple of people know about it.
That's interesting.
And not even this boy who has what is obviously an actually magic wand.
Right. Who actually performs magic.
Did they ever explain, and I just missed it, what
no.
The fuck? Okay.
It doesn't matter how you're going to finish that sentence. I'll explain it.
Why are we supposed to care about these artifacts of the girl's mom?
Unexplained.
Because
but the mom, pointing out that the mom was a thief, she stole artifacts. That's what she was stealing. I'm 90% sure it's the only thing that makes sense.
And there's probably some sort of angle they're playing of she's kind of the good guy thief, because it's these are actual magical artifacts that need to be protected, and so we can't put it in the wrong hand.
This belongs in a museum.
This doesn't belong in a museum.
This belongs in my home.
Yes. Anyway, actually, and so to that point, when he is when he's becoming the apprentice of dad character, our boy Chan has to swear that he's never going to reveal the secrets of their illusions, which maybe the secret is that it's actually magic. So that could be interesting. That's an interesting thought. But yeah,
one thing that's mentioned about that wand is it's called one of the mother's artifacts. I took that to mean, because it had her symbol on it, that she crafted this artifact.
Maybe.
Right.
As opposed to stealing it from somewhere.
He said that it broke at one point and she fixed it. So maybe
And she fixed it, yeah.
Maybe she can imbue items with some sort of magic.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Probably
yeah,
by masturbating over a sigil. That's my understanding of magic in the current day.
Right. Our MC also, I forgot to mention that she has a little sister Chan who is kind of gloomy all the time, but apparently takes a liking to our boy Chan.
She's going through her emo phase like 5 years early.
I took a note about her. I wrote, Yumemi waking up at noon tired to play games all day is very much my energy.
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel for that.
I stayed up late playing games, so I had to sleep until noon and was still tired and continued to play games until I stayed up too late and repeated the cycle. Yes.
Yes.
Right.
So so our MC convinces Sister Chan that she needs to get her mom's artifact back from Boy Chan. Or Boy Kun, I don't care. And so she does magical girl transformation that gets like weirdly sensual at one point. Not that they like aren't in other places, but
tickly tendrils.
And so she does a transformation, and then she's like, something thief Hatena. I'm gonna get my prize back, and she's kind of imitating her mom with her line. And that's how we end the episode. Also, she really doesn't. I think it's Hatena that she's being called, but her real name is something else. It can also just be Red Hatena. Am I confusing Hatena with another nickname?
No, her name is Kana, but it can be Red Hatena.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so Boy Chan keeps calling her that because that's what he's used to. And when she found out he's a boy, she's like, no, stop calling me that.
Yeah.
She introduces herself to Makoto and says, I'm Hatena, your childhood friend that you've known forever. You call me Hatena for this reason, because apparently you didn't know that when we were
That's a reminder.
friends.
Hey guys, I know we haven't talked in a few weeks. I'm Chris, your longtime co-host. You call me Chris because it's short for Christopher.
Thanks for reminding me, man. I completely forgot in the 1 week since we've done this podcast.
Anyway.
I need you to do that again, but I need you to stare directly at the camera, audience, as you say.
You call me by my nickname because we are old friends.
Yep.
You can no longer call me by my nickname because you're a boy and boys are icky.
Yeah. Jeez.
I respect your decision.
I cannot get over.
There's one world in which I can kind of understand her reacting that way, which is that if you genuinely believed that he wasn't a boy all that time and he suddenly found out, and especially if you're an adolescent person in that time just before liking boys, you might be kind of surprised by it. But the level they take it to is just ridiculous. I
have a problem with this entire concept. The way that these characters are introduced to one another seems like a one-off thing, because it doesn't seem throughout the show as if they've been friends for a very long time. It seems like they met once. And outside of that, if they had been friends for a long time, especially from that age, they would have played doctor at some point. She would know.
You say that like it's an inevitable thing.
It is an inevitable thing.
Yeah, and like all the other childhood games you play, right? Like that's gonna come up. There was something else I was gonna say, and then Dean distracted me thinking about being a young kid. And
those were the days.
I'm glad that's how that sentence ended.
Oh yeah, someone warned me last night not to go Googling little boys.
That's probably a good idea.
Only slightly related to the conversation we were having, but
I was there for that. That was amusing. There's a lot of context. We'll leave it up in the air.
Depending on how many watch lists you don't want to be on,
What was I
Where
gonna
do
say
little
about
boys
this
gather?
show?
Where can I find little boys? No, just tell them.
Which unmarked vans are little boys most attracted to? No.
Right.
Yeah.
Whitevans.com.
White van. Your number one
Oh.
source for unmarked vans.
No, so all right. So even if our main character gets her friend's gender wrong, and she is the kind of person who's like a little bit excessively like boys are gross, because like those people do exist, right?
Especially when you're
Especially
younger.
at that age.
In my
Yeah.
experience, even those people have like their one or two friend who's like, it's fine because they're not really a boy or a girl or whatever, and so I feel like
Like, they're just
the
one of the guys.
believable way to write Hatena is she does this like twice, but then she's like, oh, but remember that time that we were playing and having a lot of fun, and that other time that we were playing and having a lot of fun. Like, it's okay because
So what
Makoto's
you're
not
saying-
really a boy.
Well, like, so when they
What
go
you're
out on town
saying
too,
and what
like,
I'm
she-
understanding is
Mhm.
that Hatena's a bigot.
Yes.
she softens up a little bit when they go out on the town, but then she like gets embarrassed by the fact that she was softening up, and so she like goes back hard. It's classic tsundere. Just
It doesn't.
take it
It
to the
is,
extreme.
and it doesn't help that the maid is trying to get them to presumably fuck.
Yeah.
Like, it's really weird
So
how the maid keeps reducing the space between these
Maid-
two children. Like, she has a vested interest in their physical contact.
well, I don't think that she's going for that. I think she's just going for like romance or whatever, because I don't know, but
I don't know. The maid was played up to be
Because-
kind of creepy about that.
no,
Kind
yeah,
of.
she's definitely playing up as like doujinshi kind of sort. I don't know.
I mean, the weird thing though is our maid is not a pedophile in that like she is attracted to younger kids. She's not like a lolicon or a shotacon, right? She just wants to see younger children being intimate with each other and her not be involved, which is equally problematic, I feel.
It's like she wants to know it's happening. Like,
Yeah.
she wants to know that these teens are like clumsily kissing.
Are they
like, she
teens?
wants to
These-
know this
these
is
kids
happening.
are like 12 or 13 at the oldest. They're like tweens.
See,
I
I
mean-
assumed like early teens, but yeah, tweens works. Like, they look like they could be tweens.
At like the sort of base level, like however much further they take it or make it weird with her, I think it is just kind of like the classic sort of like older sister figure, because like when you have like a live-in maid like this, you can kind of be family to some extent. And so it's kind of like, you know, I'm gonna set up my younger sister with a guy, and like, you know, she really likes him, but she doesn't know it yet, that sort of thing. So it's just kind of like a tee hee giggle sort of deal. It's not, I didn't
feel
take
like-
it as particularly
I feel
Pervy.
like that read
Yeah.
is too reasonable for the show that we're discussing.
that's fair, yeah.
Yeah.
That's, I mean,
The show apparently takes great pride in being insane and stupid at the same time and explaining nothing. That's the thing about
And
the show that I
explaining
hated the
nothing.
most, is that I have no idea why I'm supposed to care, because the characters are annoying, but they're annoying with no real motivation to be annoying.
mhm,
It's unclear how well they know each other.
Mhm.
It's unclear why I'm supposed to care about the mom. It's
mhm,
unclear why I'm supposed to care about the artifacts.
mhm.
It's unclear why I'm supposed to give a shit about any of this that's
Mhm.
happening. It's unclear that the little sister is even a little sister. Like, that part of the show is unclear. She could be a live-in friend, like another person at this boarding house, and it would be like there would be no explanation either way.
I'm going to come back to that point in a few shows when we come across ARP, where I was like, ARP and Hatena are exact polar opposites on how to introduce people to your show. And we'll talk about this in like an hour and a half or something.
And there's something to be said,
But
maybe.
that
for-
chasm is vast.
Yeah.
There's something to be said maybe for the idea of like if we're looking at it through the lens of Makoto, who's coming to like live with these people, there's like a little bit of a sense of like when you're just kind of getting to know people, you're in an unfamiliar environment, like things just kind of happen and it's going to take some time for you to like really understand the dynamics. The place that kind of falls apart a little bit is that our MC is the girl who lives there and has been growing up with these people. But it's like it's also weird because like she's the title character and she's implicitly MC, and yet I feel like we at least split time, if not spend more time through the eyes of Makoto.
Yep.
I think
We do.
Makoto's like a stealth MC. He's the stealth insert character in the show because like the way that that's another problem I have with the show actually is it's you can get away with having our insert character, with having us feel like our insert character dropped into a world that's holy shit raid. Oh my god.
Hey, J Chalk, what's up? How's your stream, man?
Welcome
I should give them
to-
some time to get in.
That's awesome.
Let the Twitch ad play.
Yeah. God, Twitch ads. That's what's ridiculous is you can get away with having us feel like our main character being
Hey, what's up, man?
being like, yes, hi. Are
Hey.
they in now?
How was your stream? Also, thanks for the raid.
Indeed. Welcome, J. Chalk and friends.
We're just gonna pause the podcast real fast. Cause
Yeah, that's cool.
hey,
This is not Super Metroid or anything related to Super Metroid.
I mean,
I just stepped on my cat.
wow. I suppose you could say there's like some cultural adjacency to Super Metroid to anime.
Yes, there is.
I was only half watching the Discord windows when you did that, Dean. I had to like look up real fast to make sure you weren't just dabbing on us.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
That's
I
how the
stepped
nap
on
was
my
invented,
cat
don't you know?
and became terrified for both his and my safety. You can get away with making us feel like an insert character, like we don't know what's going on, but you have to have something interesting happening in order to make that work. And that's not
Right.
in the show.
Yeah, and I also
It's
feel
not
like
there.
for a show that's like supposed to be all about like the illusion, the magic, they didn't play that up as much as they could have. Like you see glimpses of it, you see the dad character, they make references to like whatever you do, don't be surprised by things that happen in this house because he's kind of mischievous and we don't know like how many generations worth of these tricksters have like, you know, laid traps throughout the mansion and stuff like that. Like nothing's going to kill you probably. But
Right.
like, you know, there's going to be lots of stuff here. So like there's kind of like this underlying kind of what's the word I'm looking for? It's kind of like there's this tone of magical mischievousness.
Mischievousness, yeah.
But they don't really tell us why we should be excited that MC is going to be embarking on this journey.
There
you know,
was a line in this show that I'm not entirely sure I understood correctly. Did they say this house was built in and then moved from another
Yes.
country?
The house, the mansion was originally somewhere else, and then they like basically moved it how you'd move a house, which is it's not a simple task, but it's totally doable. You just lift it up off the foundation, put
Or they,
rails under it, and move the thing.
or they
And
magically stole it.
There's
in,
no basement.
Yeah, right. So yeah, that was the thing, is like they had moved this mansion from where it was originally was to where it became. Which actually, you know what would make more sense is if they moved it with magic.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, they stole it from Europe and transplanted it.
Right,
to
right.
Yeah,
The house itself is an artifact.
Hatana's mom stole it one night. Just like, I'll be back.
Just
I
threw the
think
house in
that
her like
might actually
giant, like
be-
over the shoulder
Yeah.
satchel, and just kind of
Yeah.
ran off with
That
it.
might actually be too smart for this show.
There are a lot of things that are too smart for this show. Like the simple lesson of don't take candy from a stranger, which the show fails in the first couple of minutes.
That got
To
a
be
little
fair, she
like,
took
so-
it out of her own pockets.
Well, sure.
Yeah, like that whole scene where like he's trying to like cheer up the lost little girl by like, you know, doing some illusions. Like in this day and age, people really don't want strangers coming up to the children in the first place and then performing for
Right.
them. is like still like a little like, okay, this is a little uncomfortable. And then putting candy in their pockets is definitely crossing the line.
Yeah.
There are several lines crossed by this show.
Indeed.
It is a new show, J Chalk.
So everything we review on AniFiles is new for this season. So we review every first episode of every new show.
Speaking of, I think we've spent enough time on this garbage.
Yeah, I was about to say the
I'm
same.
actually kind of excited to talk about the next show because I really liked it.
All right, then, Chris, give us your ratings for this show.
All right. Hatena Star Illusion, Episode 1, Sexism and Indentured Servitude, or alternatively, Hatena Illusion, Episode 1, High Society, The Ultimate Illusion. Did the premise interest me? Not really, no. It even kind of turned into like a sort of magical girl thing, but not in a way that was interesting to me. Did the production impress me? It was fine. It was nice, but not impressive. Did the storytelling impress me? Nope. For all the reasons we've talked about here. Again, it's not bad, and they do, I mean, like less anime bad stuff than a typical anime might, but it's still not good.
I found this show stomachable after about the halfway point when the main character stops being not the main character, sorry, Makoto stops being a little bitch. That, like when he gets his shit together is when I stopped disliking the show.
Yeah.
Yep.
I sort of found it insufferable all the way through.
Yeah.
So did I enjoy the first episode? I didn't hate it. I've suffered through shows worse, but I wouldn't say I enjoyed it. And it make me interested to see more. No, it did not. So that is straight zeros.
Dean?
Yeah. Hatena Illusion Episode 1. Full name Jeeves Woodhouse Alfred Cato Duckworth. This show scenario interest, boy gets dropped into a magical world where magic is real. I guess. I mean, it seems kind of trite, but it could be interesting. It's basically do what?
I would say he's dropped into it because he's aware of it. He wants to be part of it. He knows about it.
But he thinks he's doing illusions. Like he thinks.
Yeah.
I have no idea. Again, unexplained. It's unexplained how much he knows about this world.
Right. Okay. I didn't get the sense that he was coming in here with zero knowledge. That's all.
Maybe
I
the
absolutely
shows
got the sense that he believes he's doing illusions and is secretly doing magic and doesn't know it.
But he calls it magic at one point, and the dad corrects him like, "It's illusions, grr, never tell them we do magic."
Right, but we call illusions magic anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I wonder if the show is like asking the same question that one might in real life, which is like, is it magic or is it an illusion? We don't know.
I don't know. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Either way, I'm not particularly interested in this scenario. The production and look, it looks okay. Sound design is okay. Everything about it is just like okay. It's not impressive at all. The storytelling I thought was not good. Again, nothing is explained, and I don't know why I'm supposed to care. I did not enjoy it, and I am not interested to see any more of it. This is a 0 for me.
All right, then, for me, Hatena Illusion, Episode 1, an entire childhood wasted being friends with a stupid boy. Did the premise interest me? No, but this one's a soft no. I definitely could be interested in the idea of, like, a magical girl romance, or, like, boy meets girl meets magic, or...
Can I interest you in a magical girl boy? Or perhaps a magical girl site?
Yes, I think you could. Did the production impress me? No, it was fine. Did the storytelling impress me? No. See above. Did you enjoy the first episode? No, I did. Like I said earlier, I did stop hating it about halfway through, but I didn't enjoy it. Did it make me interested to see more? No. So that's straight zeros for me as well. Adam?
Hatena Illusion, Episode 1. The only illusion is our friendship.
Not bad.
Nice.
Alternate title, I don't want to have friends, so I'll max out my tsundere. There's one of these for every show. Did the premise interest me? I said that I like the idea of magician thieves a lot more than I like the tension between these two characters.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But there is a lot more tension than magical thievery somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Did the production impress me? It looked nice. There wasn't anything mind-blowing about it, but it looked nice enough for me to give it the point. Did the storytelling impress me? No. Surprising nobody? No. Did I enjoy the first episode? I didn't not enjoy it, but I wouldn't have stopped to watch it on my own, so no. And did the first episode make me interested to see more? I'm interested enough to see like 1 or 2 more episodes to see if this actually becomes a show that starts telling a story. But I'm not going to commit to the full season, but I'm still going to give it the point for that.
That's fair.
Makes sense.
Fair enough. That brings our total score for this show to a 2 or 10%.
Yep.
The next show we
That's
have
fair.
to talk about is Somali in the Forest Spirit. Dean, tell us about the forest and Somali.
Yeah.
Pirates.
Pirates. So we open up on a beautiful matte painted forest with some some actual background animation going on, creatures rolling around. We get some voiceover about a golem, and this golem walks around and he's the protector of the forest who protects forests. And he's a tall guy with a stitchy face and cool character design. And then at the very beginning of it, he's walking around and he's talking about how he protects the forests and he speaks for the trees. And then he finds a little girl who's chained up, and the chained girl calls him dad, and the golem appears to be taken aback. And then it cuts to the OP, which is pretty chill. It's a pretty cool, pretty chill OP. I like it a lot. So we open back up on the show. The girl is chasing some critters around and stuff. And then the golem's like, "Hey man, you got to stay near me." And she's like, "No, I don't, because I'm a child. I don't listen to adults." And then they come upon a city, and they go into the city and they're walking around, and then they go to a restaurant because the girl's hungry. And we get some exposition about why there are no humans in this world, because everybody's a weird creature. We got lizard creatures, and we got animal creatures of all sorts, and some of them are even stranger than others. You wouldn't believe the creatures we have here. It actually looks like Rick and Morty creature design a little bit, but we got all these weird creatures, man. So apparently they genocided the humans because they were mean to them. And
I mean, the way that it's described by the monsters in that exposition, I get it. Humans show up in your town and they're like, "You look weird, you're dumb, you smell bad," and everyone's just like, "What the fuck, humanity? Nobody invited you."
Here's what happens in this fucking straight out of SIA, we're sitting at a cafe expositing scene.
Yep.
Here's a really cool world we have. Have some morals. Here's a moral lesson for you. Don't you want to have our morals? No. So they're sitting there and they're talking about how they genocided the humans, and one of them was talking about, "Man, I remember when we hunted down the stragglers and murdered them. That was fucking fun, dude."
They were
and the
delicious.
other guy's like, "Oh yeah, we like to eat those motherfuckers, right?" And they're like, "Yeah, I like to eat their balls first. They pop in your mouth. They're just, it's fucking gruesome, dude."
They didn't say that. But,
They didn't say that. But so they're going through and they're talking about, and then we get that, and then we go up to they're like done eating or whatever, and she's like, "Hey man, I'm sleepy, let's sleep." And they're like, "Where are you gonna sleep tonight?" And he's like, "We're gonna sleep outside." And everyone's like, "That's fucking dumb. There's a hotel right over there." So they go to the inn and they're staying in the inn, and the little girl's like crawling around. She's got this hood on, and the hood has horns. So she's crawling around. She's obviously, one of the things he says earlier is that she's disguised. He calls her a minotaur. He says she's a minotaur because she looks vaguely human and has horns on her hood. So she's crawling around in the inn, and she tears one of the horns. And he's like, "Hey man, you can't be doing that. That shit's dangerous." So he repairs the thing, and while he's doing so, the girl starts making noise or whatever. And he's like, "Hey, shut the hell up because I hear somebody outside." And it's like footsteps. We understand now this is dangerous. This is a dangerous situation we're in. And the girl's like, "Hey man."
I think we understood that it was a dangerous situation when the monsters were talking about how they genocided all of the humans, and this little human girl is sitting right there eating dinner, oblivious to the entire fucking world all episode.
Yeah. So she's like, "Hey man, you're fixing my shit. You got scared when you heard those footsteps, didn't you?" He's like, "I don't have emotions. I am a tall man." And she's like, "No, you have emotions. I saw you get tense." Anyway, moving on. Then when she's asleep, he looks at his arm, and his arm is hurt, unexplained. Probably come back in a later episode. Then we get a shopping montage in the morning. They're going around. They got to resupply, so they're shopping. The girl walks off. What's up?
Right when when the golem started shopping, I asked myself, and I took a note, why does the golem have money? How does the golem have money?
Well,
and as a credit to this show, we find out immediately why and how the golem has money. And I loved that about this show. It answered my question.
Because he trades precious stones that he finds. So he goes to this store and he's haggling over these precious stones that he's trying to trade in. The guy's like, "Man, those are super, super common, dude. Like, I'm not going to give you very much money for those." So he has a stitch across his face. It's a line straight down the middle of his face. He opens it up it looks like a vagina with an eye in it. And he's like looking at the items, and he's like, "Hey man, these items are all fake. You've got a shop full of fake items. So unless you want me to tell everybody," it's kind of implicit, "unless you want me to tell everybody, you'll give me more money." And the guy's like, "Okay, I'll give you more money." While he's doing this, the girl chases off after a cat because she's an idiot and doesn't know how to stay close to an adult. So we get a cat following montage. And then we have the cat starts talking to her, and then it starts to recognize her as human. It's like, "Hey man, you smell pretty good though." And then the golem like drops down out of the sky and is like, "Hey man, you get the hell out of here, cat." And he takes the girl, and they I think they go back to the inn for a night, and then they leave town. And then as they're leaving the town's going off in the distance. They're walking out into the wilds, and he's like, "Hey man, so I was watching people while we were in the city, and all these adults were holding children's hands. So here, take this, my hand, grab it." And she's like, "But what do you like this?" And she grabs it with both hands because she's an idiot. And he's like, "Nah, man, just the one hand is enough."
Do you not remember the earlier scene where you were looking longingly at all the people holding hands with their parents, then looking at your dad and being like, "I want to hold hands with my dad," but you didn't pay enough attention to how hand holding works.
I didn't read that
opportunity you clearly wanted. You fuck it all up.
I didn't read that necessarily as wanting to hold hands. I read that more as kind of the first realization that oh, maybe I'm not actually the child of my parent.
Sort of a weird sort of a
it kind of
dawns on her that this relationship is different.
Mm-hmm. This one's a mini version of that one. This one's a mini version of that one, and we look very different.
Yeah. So they hold hands, and it's very sweet, and she's grabbing his finger because he's a big guy, big tall man with no emotions, he says, which is obviously a lie. He obviously has emotions. He loves this little girl. And so they're walking off into the wilderness, and it's very sweet, and it's a gorgeous fucking show. Mm-hmm. And I absolutely fucking loved this. It was do you remember that do you remember the show that we had that was the magician that raised the girl as his own, and then at the end of the manga he marries her, but we ignore that exists?
It's this is a more wholesome version of that.
This is exactly a more wholesome version of that, and that's all I wanted was that show to be more wholesome. I don't know. And this was
until the golem marries the little girl.
Ah!
I mean, let's be honest, he can get rock hard.
Oh yes. I actually thought this show was very pretty, but it was a little bit off-putting. Like the palette that they chose was weird, but the environments are gorgeous, and I really really liked this a lot.
The aesthetic I really liked. I really wanted to like this show because parts of it were adorable and heartwarming, but it was like parts of it were too awkward, like that one cafe scene, and then I get frustrated with children too easily, and so she wanders off and is clearly in danger, and I'm like, just let her be in danger.
Die. Just let her die. Just let her die.
Be done.
No,
like if I was really concerned about like them finding out that this was a human, I think I would rely on a different disguise than just a hood that can be taken off when the child starts to feel itchy or hot. Like it's they kind of just like breeze over the fact that disguise wouldn't really work.
Kind of sucks. It kind of sucks.
I think kind of my overall feeling about this is sort of similar but different from Ryan's in that I came into it kind of cynical because like you see the art style and you see the premise and it's like, okay, this is trying to be this nice, heartwarming, very beautifully drawn show that like everyone's supposed to love. And I've kind of been burned by that premise enough times. And it never really seemed to like kind of achieve what it's trying to do enough that like I came into it like I was even observing as I was watching it. It's like I'm kind of weirdly hostile to the show in a way that I really ought not to be. And so I was trying to like consciously try to enjoy it. And I came away with like
at the beginning too. At the beginning of it, I felt exactly that same way where I'm like, this is going to try to tug on my heartstrings and I'm not going to let it.
Excuse me. So yeah, like I kind of came in with that, you know, semi-conscious bias toward it and tried to enjoy it and just like wasn't really impressed, possibly because of that semi-conscious bias. I think that for me, like there were definitely things I enjoyed about it. I really liked the writing of the Golem character. Like, you know, it's the kind of obvious way to write the thing without human emotions. Of like it's got this very analytical speech. It's very direct and kind of like what's what I'm looking for? It's very machine-like in the way that it speaks. It's kind of doing the thing that you do where you sort of say normal things in kind of like weirdly scientific ways, so to speak.
Right, kind of disconnected. A disconnected way of speaking.
But I really enjoyed that approach, and it did seem to be like pretty smart. Like I enjoyed too that it understands living things enough that it's able to kind of interact. So like they didn't do the typical thing of like machine-like thing doesn't know how to interact with human society or monster society, as the case might be. And so like I love the line there when he's like kind of threatening to spill the beans that the shopkeeper has got a bunch of counterfeit goods. He says, "I believe you understand the intent of my statement." Right. And so like it's like I just loved the way that they presented.
Like he understands implication, but he can't deliver it very well. Like he understands that he's implying something, but he doesn't go like, man, he says, sure would be a shame if people found out about it. Yeah. He doesn't do that.
He says it in a very direct way.
He's like, I'm implying something. You understand that, yeah? And the guy's like, yeah, I get it, man. Like, I guess I'll give you some money.
Have some money.
Right.
I did like the writing of the Golem.
I did.
Go ahead, Dean. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I started out that same way, and then the show won me over. It did. It won me over about halfway through.
And meanwhile, I don't think it didn't really win me over. It remained just a nice show that didn't really get me interested to see where it's going to go. Slight spoilers for some of my ratings later. It just, I don't know. It was just nice, and it was a little bit annoying in places, and I didn't feel endeared to the child character, which I think is very important in a show that's trying to endear you to the child character. And so like just like whatever highlights it had wasn't enough to kind of get me over that hump of pretty show cynicism. I don't know.
The show for me had one major bugbear, and it wasn't the bugbear. It was the fact that every time you see something happening in the foreground, the background is completely frozen.
I noticed that it's especially noticeable. It's in the city. Like in the city, the background is not alive at all.
It's the entire show. The things in the foreground are moving dramatically, and the things in the background are frozen completely.
Stock still. Yeah.
It feels like that might be an intentional thing to draw your eyes to where they need to be drawn, because they do have some very busy frames. So.
Right, but there's a scene where the golem and Somali, I guess her name is, are walking through the town, and there are two people clearly haggling in the background, but they're frozen in the middle of speech and movement.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
And if that had been animated at all, it would not feel as jarring to me.
Yeah. There are I see kind of both sides. It did feel a little bit dead a bit, but then it was also like, I mean, Chris pointed out there were some very busy crowd scenes and stuff that you would expect there to be movement in the background, but it actually might make it hard to read, especially because the palette they chose. Like the palette they chose could potentially be very confusing if there's a lot of emotion.
It's like
going
both
on.
pastel and very saturated.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Like it looked pretty, it was just frozen.
Yeah.
Shall we go get on to ratings?
Sure.
All right, Dean, what are your ratings for this show?
Man, you know I'm a sucker for daddy-daughter stories, basically. Like I'm a sucker for these kinds of stories where it's like unexpected dad becomes dad to little girl. Like I like those stories a lot. They're touching and heartwarming. I did, just like Chris said, I came into this kind of like, I'm not gonna let this get me. I can see what they're doing here. And then when it was actually the eye sequence when he's haggling with the guy and the eye opens up and he starts saying like, this thing's made out of this, so it's obviously fake. That thing over there is made out of this. Like he can see the chemical makeup of everything. And he's like, so like, you see what I'm getting at, right? And the dude just that scene kind of won me over. I liked that interaction a lot. And then everything after that became like very sweet and touching, and it just kind of got me. But scenario interest from the start, it's a daddy-daughter story, so I'm already like into it. Production, I thought the show was beautiful. Like to me, the mats make it worth it. I do agree that the background is kind of stock still for a lot of it, but God, it's beautiful. Like the mats are so gorgeous, especially the forest scene at the very beginning. Like, God, it looks so good. So I'm gonna give it a point for production. Storytelling, I'm also gonna give it a point, even though there was that scene in the at the beginning, the sitting at the restaurant expositing the history of the world thing. It's bad, but they kind of had to do it to sort of tell us what happened and why it's important that this girl stay in disguise.
To that scene again, like I entered that scene going, oh, a level 1 fighter would gain so much experience in this town, and then they proceeded to say, oh, by the way, we murdered all the humans because they were assholes, and I was like, that explains why a level 1 fighter has not gained 100 levels in this town.
That's exactly right. So I actually kind of dug it though. I'm gonna give it a point for enjoyment, and I don't think I'm gonna watch this again. It's not that I'm disinterested by it, it's just that I know I'm not gonna watch any more of it, and it didn't hook me hard enough to make me want to watch more. Like I know I would rather go back and finish No Guns Life than watch this. So for me, like I'm not gonna give it a point for one to see more, but it gets a 3.
A 3 or a 4? I thought you gave it points for everything.
Oh no, it was a 4. I'm sorry. Yeah, it was a 4. I didn't do the scenario. My bad.
All right, for me, Somali and the Forest Spirit, episode 1. Look at this cool fantasy world, and please remember that racism is bad. Did the premise interest me? Ah, man. I'm going to say no. If done well, I could be interested in a show like this, but just based on the premise alone, I don't think I'm interested. Did the production impress me? Yes. C. Dean's explanation about production. Did the storytelling impress me? I'm going to say no, because like Chris said, it's very important in this show that you're endeared to Somali, and I wasn't. Did I enjoy the first episode? I am going to give it a point overall, but I'm not interested to see any more. So just a 2 for me. Adam?
Somali and the Forest Spirit, Episode 1, a wild human appears. Or I don't want to animate, so I'll max out my still frames. Did the premise interest me? No, it did not. Like, there's potential there, but I don't care. Did the production impress me? As I talked about the background being the thing that took me the most out of the show, no. Did the storytelling impress me? Yes. I had questions throughout this episode, and a question would come up, and then the show would answer it almost immediately, and I have to appreciate that level of prescience. I have to give that a point. Did I enjoy the first episode? Overall, I did, but I'm not going to watch any more of it. So if I can do math, unlike Dean, that's a 2 out of 5.
And Chris.
All right. Somali and the Forest Spirit, Episode 1, a forest spirit out of forest. So did the premise interest me? So like I said, I kind of came into this a little bit cynical, and I think that it was also hurt by when you pull it up on Crunchyroll, there's a sort of like episode 0 that seems to be some sort of like interview with some of the creators or something like that, and they're going to be talking about the show. And so it kind of like everything that was presented to me from like the sort of like very pretty, like, original fantasy premise, kind of like trying to like capitalize on like the Miyazaki, kind of legacy.
It wants to be very artistic. It really wants to be artistic.
So between like that and the fact like we're gonna have like this interview with the creators before you've even seen the show to like tell you like how great the show is and their vision and all this different stuff, like some people might enjoy that, especially if they know the creators and are kind of excited to hear about it before they watch. But for me, it just kind of like added to that that feeling of like, oh, they're trying really hard to make sure that I know this is going to be a very pretty, impressive anime. And so no, the premise did not interest me. Did the production
for you?
Hard to you.
Question for you before you go on.
Sure.
It came off as try hard. If you had watched that interview after the first episode, like what was it, a couple seasons ago?
The scene with the naked
short
girl.
Yeah, that short.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Kodashan.
Rinchi.
Based on a 4
Rinchi.
Yeah. Rinchi.
That's the one. Thank you, Dean. If you had watched the what the hell the show was about after watching the episode, do you think that would have impacted your rating?
Well, first of all, I didn't actually watch it. I actually skipped it intentionally because I just wanted to get straight to the first episode. But it was there, and so like just the fact that it was there had an effect. I mean, maybe it would have felt different if I did watch it. Who knows? So that is a fair question. It's an interesting question, but that's just it. I didn't really play into my impression because I didn't watch it. Aside from the fact that it was presented there. And so even when I say like this an interview about this, it could have been about something totally different. That was just what it looked like it was going to be to me.
I skipped through it to see if there was going to be anything interesting, and there wasn't. So I just like,
oh, okay. And like, you can hear me right now, like fully acknowledging all the biases that I came into the show with, whether they're
right.
So did the production?
You never once claimed that this show was objective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So did the production impress me? Again, it doesn't quite get there because if I'm looking for the heartwarming trek through nature, I'm kind of looking for designs and animations and everything like that like really blow me away, and nothing really did. It was nice, but not impressive. Does storytelling impress me? I will throw out a bone here. Yes. Everything that you guys already said. I wasn't super endeared to Somali, but I did really enjoy the writing of the golem. It's not a super original idea to have like the monsters living in the world without the humans. But it's kind of like a fun little twist or whatever. So I will give it a bone for storytelling, or a point rather, because I'm throwing it a bone. Did I enjoy the first episode? Yeah, for the same reasons that I thought the storytelling was pretty good. I didn't love it, but I enjoyed it more than I didn't. And did it make me interested to see more? It did not. Like I said, with many shows, if I hear down the line that's like, no, the entire thing is the most amazing thing ever, you need to watch it. It's an important historical moment in anime. I don't think it's going to be that. But if someone tells me that it is, then maybe I can be convinced. But from the first episode, that just wasn't my gig. I can see how someone would love this, but not so much for me. So that is a 2 overall.
That brings our total score to a 10 or 50%. The next show we have to talk about is number 24. Now, the first thing you need to know about number 24 is someone sat down and they said, if we wanted to make the worst anime ever, what are all of the elements we would have to include? So they came up with a list, and then they made
what
that
was the
show.
List? I need to know what the list is, okay? I have my checkbook out. I am ready to buy this idea from you, but I need to hear the list.
Okay.
All right. Number 1, floppy horse head. Number 2, girl running a race for no reason.
Okay.
Number 3, collection of scenes which have no narrative cohesion.
Okay.
Number 4, pull my finger, I will grow larger, and then there will be a hole in the windshield of our spaceship, and all of you will sucked out through it.
Okay.
Number 5, the floor is lava inexplicably.
Okay. I feel like you just sold me Virtual Son, but I'll buy it.
He's looking, you know.
Oh, is he looking?
Always. He's always looking.
See, I disagree. I feel like Virtual Son is a terrible show, but it somehow manages to do it without like the things that I personally hate most in anime.
Yeah.
This show,
sports,
however,
does with all the things you hate most in anime.
Yeah. So
a mom giving a thing and saying, I'm gonna die, but this won't.
This is really unfair because it's only other shows that have caused this particular thing to be bad, but rugby.
Yes.
Just a rugby anime.
Well, I just wrote a 0.
They suck.
I just wrote a 0.
Okay.
So what's
all right. Fujo bait.
Fujo bait. That's another 0. There's another 0 on this check.
All right. I've got eating noises.
Okay.
Yep.
Overdo the ADR. Gotcha. That's another 0.
Okay. Now, what if at points when we want all of our characters interacting on screen, okay, but like drawing is hard.
Okay.
So what if anytime all the characters are on screen, they stand in a line across the screen?
Entirely two-dimensionally?
Entirely two-dimensionally.
Like the world is literally paper?
Like the world is literally paper.
I love it. That's another 0.
Okay, what if, and I'm gonna just cut you off there. What if our corporate sponsorship was so important to us that every time our corporate sponsor's logo appeared on the screen, it was the most animated thing in the entire show, so eye-catching that you could not look away from that one word that is so carefully drawn. Gilbert.
I love it. That'll make the advertisers happy.
That's how I can write all these zeros.
That's another 0. And then .00 sounds dumb. I'm not buying it. This entire check is full of zeros. I'm getting rid of it.
So number 24, we open on 2 people, gender unclear, on a motorcycle.
Yes.
And they are going on this motorcycle, and then they stop going on this motorcycle, and if that sounds like a crash to you, that's because it is. Okay?
Well, they kept going. The motorcycle decided it didn't want anymore.
True.
I was like, I'm done. Y'all can keep doing your thing.
It's like,
oh shit! I'm about to be in a terrible anime. Peace.
The motorcycle is sitting down for a cup of tea and says, so in this world, there's such a thing as momentum. So here's what happens when you're going really fast, but then the thing that is making you go fast stops going fast, you keep going.
And then here's what happens when the momentum hits 0 very suddenly for you.
Yeah.
You stop going, and your bones start going.
Your bones are still going. You're not.
The skin that touches the surface stops going. Everything like closer afield than that skin keeps going. That's including your organs, muscles, other tissues.
All of the mass that was going stops going, and now a lot of sound and heat is going.
Okay, we should really get moving on this.
So our
We were, and then it stopped.
Yeah,
We were going, and then it stopped abruptly.
so it's got the momentum of this show. Yeah.
Our MC is in the hospital, and he's injured because he was in a motorcycle accident, but it wasn't his fault. It was his friend's
Injured
fault,
with
and he
what?
likes.
I need to get one more joke in. I'm sorry. And feel free after the telling of this joke about number 24 to say too soon. But if that motorcycle is watching the show during that scene where it suddenly stops going and the protagonists keep going
Oh, I know.
as if the motorcycle had thrown them,
I'm going to preempt you and say too soon.
all right, I will not continue with my obligatory Kobe reference then. I will let that go. I will let that go.
Oh, rip in peace, man. So our main character really likes rugby, but he's injured, and it turns out that he's
Quick question.
well loved.
I have a quick
in
question.
How much does this
homoerotic
character
way.
I'm gonna make the show stop going again. What is it that our character is injured with? What is this malady that
Oh,
has
shit.
taken this man from athletic superstar to water boy? What is this injury that is so dire
So
that our main
apparently-
character spent 6 months in the hospital?
Apparently, he's got a hernia. Just, dude, like, how do hernias work? Can you even get a hernia from being in a motorcycle? My
Yes is the
okay.
answer, actually.
I'm
Also,
sure you
hernias can be in a lot of different places. So they
Right.
implied that there was like some sort of like upper spine injury. So it could be like a herniated disc. And they
That's
just
what I'm thinking
mistranslated
it was, but the way that it was delivered, and even in the subtitles, he just calls it a hernia, which is just a breakdown in a muscle wall. So like you can get one on your stomach where your abdominals are, it doesn't matter. But I just found it hilarious that the thing that took this athletic superstar out of the game was a fucking hernia.
I think it's more funny
That's what they went with.
that it's like you were in a real bad motorcycle accident. You got a hernia. It's like of all the bones that could have broken, like skin.
Oh no, that
could have
that happened
could've-
too. It's just like the hernia was the one thing they couldn't fix.
Anyways, yeah. So our main
You have a
character-
hernia. Will I ever sports again? Ha! No. No, you won't.
Our main character is real gay, and he's real
Yeah.
liked in a real homoerotic way, and all of his friends are real gay.
Yeah.
Not
It's
stated explicitly.
absolutely
This
Fujo
is-
babe.
This is mostly Ryan's read on it, but
Oh,
Oh,
no,
it's
this
very
is-
homoerotic.
Yeah.
It's designed to be that, and
And it's-
every
Oh, yeah, 'cause
interaction between the
it is-
characters,
it is Fujo bait. Yes.
every interaction between the characters is supposed to be packed with sexual tension, but it's just awkward. Like,
Like the one where they're doing push-ups on top of each other.
Oh yeah, they like straight up like add like grunts with no context, and so
Oh,
like
yeah,
you're
no,
supposed to
the-
yeah.
Like 3/4 of the way through the show, hard cut, 2 male characters face to face, just hot and steamy and Zoom out.
And then they cut to a further out shot that shows it's like, oh no, it's like an assisted stretching thing or assisted push-ups.
They're
where-
doing like weird missionary push-ups.
it's kind of like
missionaries.
it's like doing a bench press, but with a person who is like, you know,
also doing a push-up.
yeah, like they're kind of like in a push-up position, and you're basically bench pressing them.
that
that
doesn't
way.
increase the force between the two people. It's entirely based upon their weight. So you're not, by pushing against one another, if one of you is suspended, you're just pushing the same weight. You're both pushing the body weight of the guy on top. It doesn't increase the forces between the hands. That seems like the most useless exercise.
You know, it is a dumb looking exercise. I don't know if anyone actually does that anywhere, but if you wanted to be able to do a chest exercise that's not push-ups while on a rugby field, I suppose that's a way you could do it.
If you want to do a chest exercise and get real intimate with the boys, that's a pretty solid option.
That's the entire justification.
Anyway, so
I would like to do a deadlift while someone else is doing push-ups. If only I could minimize the amount of space that took.
Also, I want to just take a moment to like make it very clear that when we're kind of poking fun at the Fujo bait nature of this, like that is a show that is something for someone, and we're not trying to kink shame or anything like that. We are a bunch of straight. We're a bunch of straight dudes who will readily admit that some of us at least enjoy watching cute girls do cute things, and this is a show about cute boys doing cute things.
Here's my problem with it, though.
As the case might be.
There's good Fujo bait. There are shows that are Fujo bait and also good, but just like with just about any other show, if it's weird pseudo-sexual interactions between characters, but bad, it'll get ripped on whether it's women or men or whatever.
No, I agree with that. Yeah. But I'm just trying to make a point that like we tend to be harsher on the stuff that is not for us.
True.
So just bear that in mind. That like we're not like, if you enjoyed this show, it's nothing against you. It's just that we don't like it.
And if you want Fujo bait, watch good Fujo bait. Don't waste your time on shoddily written stuff. Like there's really good writing in Fujoshi stuff.
We'll need to get a report from you, Dean, by next week on Dean's list of top.
I'm thinking specifically of the music one that we had last season. The musical boys playing musical instruments.
Guitar.
I don't know if that's Fujo bait though. I feel like that was like just legitimately a gay romance.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely a gay romance. I think it serves the same purpose though. Like it serves kind of the same niche.
Same.
It was good. It was really good.
Broadly speaking, perhaps, yeah. But
I don't remember the name of it.
Like I read this more as Fujo bait in the way that like. It not like a one-to-one, not an apples to apples kind of comparison, but the way that like a any given ecchi that's not just about being ecchi. What was the one we watched? Azure Lane, maybe. It's like this is clearly meant for dudes who like cute girls or whatever, and this is clearly for ladies who like cute boys. And so
right.
I'm harkening this back to like Kandogawa Jet Girls from last season.
Yeah,
I would say that's taking it a little bit further, but yeah.
Depends on which cut you watch.
Well, the cut is the same, it's just censored. But anyway, so again with the momentum, we are very slowly working our way through this show. Synopsis.
Nothing happens in this show. Our main character can't do rugby anymore, so he's the manager for the rugby team, and he's real effeminate while he's doing it. Just like all the other characters in this show. And then there's one really extra effeminate character who's supposed to be smart, but not very athletic. So why is he playing rugby? But it turns out he really likes rugby, but then he gets an ulcer. Because everyone in this show is like 50.
Everybody gets taken out by the most ridiculous
he was just so stressed possible. Though, man. The pressure was just too much.
I'm sorry, guys. I can't play rugby for the next 2 weeks. I have the chicken pox.
So then he becomes a manager too, and our main character teaches this character how to be real cute.
how to be a kiss ass. Like he
That's
teaches it.
the
He's
show.
sitting there in front. He's like, "Do you know why everyone likes me so much? Because I'm an absolute kiss ass. And here's how you can be an absolute kiss ass too."
Repeat
and I'm like,
after me.
"No, nobody likes a kiss ass. Shut up."
I think that like in principle what he's saying is actually valid because like what you do to like get to like kind of get people to like you, if you sort of go back to like old who was it? I'm drawing a blank on the guy's name, but he wrote like the book in the 30s that was like how to gain friends and influence people.
Yeah.
And so like, you know, in that it's talking about like, you know, be interested in what they're interested in, like engage with them in a way that kind of like affirms whatever it is they're saying to you. And so like he kind of just distilled all that down into 3 statements, but presented in a way that was like very kiss ass.
Gaslight others into thinking they're interesting.
Tell me more, Fritz and Dean. I would like to know more about this thing you're talking about.
Well,
So that's this show. I literally, so this show starts and I'm like, okay, I know what this is, right? It's a rugby Fujo show. I mean, I guess at least it's not Notome. But
At
then,
least that.
But then lunchtime. And we've talked about how I feel about eating sounds. You don't voice act eating, right? Like that's just it's a thing you animate, and hopefully, unless your friends are disgusting mouth-breathing human beings, they don't make a whole lot of noise when they eat.
Dean,
There's
Dean,
no,
stop.
you don't.
You're taking it a little bit too far.
I
know that annoys you so much, Ryan. I never notice it. I never
Thank
notice
you.
it ever.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning into the final episode of AniFiles feature.
I mean, like there are other plot points we're leaving out, but that's not really that important. Like there's like this whole like basically every plot point that we're leaving out just revolves around our main character's reaction and or the team's reaction to him being a star last year and not being a manager for the team. And there's this whole thing about like, you know, but I just love rugby so much that I want to, you know, keep being involved in some way. And maybe I'm just like, you know, kind of fooling myself here. And, you know, he kind of convinces weak Kun to leave as well. And actually the team, it was kind of funny because like the next day when they announced like, hey, I'm going to be, you know, joining the managerial staff as well. It's like, look, we said you're going to like recruit more managers, but we didn't mean like recruit them from out of
the team. Like I find this is a series of poorly written conversations that are supposed to read as sexual tension, but instead just read as awkward. Like they don't read
maybe
as sexual tension to me. It just reads like people who don't know how to have a conversation.
And so like I don't know if maybe like I'm just like I don't come into these looking for the sexual tension, but like I didn't read most of it as sexual tension. I just read it as pretty boys also being soft boys and having feels. And so like there were a few months where it's like it's very clearly like, you know, the push-up scene or whatever, and then all of the kind of like there is like a little bit of implied sexual tension between our MC and his black-haired kind of quiet stoic friend that they've been friends since school. And like if you sort of look at the credit sequence, they have these like very, very like, you know, Fujo styled illustrations of like them kind of growing up together and stuff like that. And it's nice, you know, it's not like it's not bad or anything. It's just like you can definitely tell like what they're trying to imply with.
That's what they're trying to build. But those conversations specifically, like I feel like there was supposed to be sexual tension there. Sorry, my bad. I feel like there was supposed to be sexual tension there, but it just read as awkwardness to me.
Maybe because it's like one-sided. So like it's awkward because there's sexual tension coming from one side and the other side's kind of oblivious to it. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. It just felt weird. Like it just seemed like if you're gonna write sexual tension, do better. Like they should seem like they know each other.
All the writing in this show
least.
was bad and awkward. The character interactions were atrocious. Yeah, shall we just rate and move on?
Yes.
There was one conversation at the end of the episode that I actually chuckled about. It was the only conversation that I thought actually had any, I don't know, thought behind
Value.
it. No, not value. Let's not.
Value's too much.
The value's too much. But when after the point you mentioned where he recruits the younger child as like manager 2, and 3 classmates come over and they're yelling at him, and the main character goes, "But he's so good with making websites and so good with doing all of this, clerical managerial stuff. But you all knew that, right?" Where he actually puts into play the teachings that he gave.
Mm-hmm.
And then the girl character that's standing there is like, he's playing you, right?
Yeah.
That actually, like, I chuckled at that. I was like, finally, something in the show I can enjoy.
Yeah.
That same conversation too. Like all the guys are like, you should have recruited like a hot girl manager to be on the team. Like they're like fantasizing about like these like hot girls like doing like really like sort of sexily doing manager things. And so like he's very focused on like, here's the practical reasons I hired this guy. And it's like, no, we really don't care about that. We just want hot managers. And I thought that was also kind of amusing.
Dean, I forgot earlier. But I've got another checkbox that the show ticks, so you can add another 0 to your check. Okay.
Okay.
What if we had a character who's foreign, but it's anime, so no one's gonna know he's foreign. So in order to convey that he's foreign, we'll make him talk in a really weird cadence.
Hold on a second. I gotta pull out this check now. I'm gonna put a 1 in front of all these zeros. You just won me over. Here you go. There's your check.
Like I haven't heard enough people,
or whatever it ended up being.
I haven't heard enough like native English speakers speaking broken Japanese to know what that actually sounds like, but I'm pretty sure it's not this.
Yeah, no, this seems wrong. This show just, man, it just trips over itself. It just seems like this show just seems like it steps on its dick every time it takes a step. It is ridiculous how much this show trips over itself.
Or you could say the show stops and the characters keep going as if
All right. Ratings for this show.
All right.
Number 24, episode 1, How to Write a Bad Anime for Dummies. Straight zeros. This is absolute irredeemable garbage. Adam?
I want to point out, the next time I watch a sports anime, I'm going to watch the first few seconds, realize it's a sports anime, go to an LCBO, a liquor store, buy myself a bottle of vodka, come back, start watching the show, and every time they mention the sport by name, I'm going to take a shot, and I will be dead before the episode is over.
True.
With that said, number 24, episode 1, Gilbert. Or, I don't want to die, so I'll max out my coaching stat. Straight zeros. No.
Chris?
Number 24, episode 1, cute boys doing rugby things. Did the premise interest me? No, for obvious reasons. Like I said, this is a show for someone, and it's honestly not bad for what it is. You can tell that they tried, but it's definitely not for me. Did the production impress me? Looks pretty good in a lot of places. Definitely a lot better than our last rugby show that we watched. But I wouldn't say it's impressive. Did the storytelling impress me? Again, it's not awful. I mean, for what it is, they deliver it decently well. Just also falls into a lot of the tropes that I don't really care for, so it did not impress me. Did I enjoy the first episode? No. And did it make me interested to see more? No.
Dean?
Look, I have to disagree slightly. I think it's bad for what it is. I don't think the Fujo bait in this show was good. I think we didn't get any blushing on the boys. We didn't get any heart thumps. We didn't get anything that would imply
blushing.
Yeah, like when Weak Cocoon is learning how to say those things, he's kind of blushing and stuttering.
Oh yeah.
Stammering,
He's being we got a little bit of that. But I didn't think the Fujo was particularly Fujo enough. And I think it's because the characters' relationships were not believable.
Well, I think that also, like, even if it is Fujo bait, it's kind of like a milder form of it, where it's not like straight up like BL. It's just trying to kind of, like I said, it's cute boys doing rugby things, and so it's like
That's
like
right.
little
I
like
mean-
subtleties, you know.
But that's the difference between like bait and actually being for Joshi, right? Is like bait
true.
is like it's not BL. It's just implied.
I would like to say that the rugby things were actually drawn decently well.
Yeah, they weren't bad. They weren't terrible.
But, you know,
The actual playing of rugby, having played a grand total of some rugby in high school, true story. True story.
Total of some.
So I just remembered something. Speaking of the production, I actually, for one, appreciated that like not all, but a lot of the rugby players are actually drawn like bulky, because rugby players tend to actually be pretty large. But then there's this one shot like in the OP where like they're showing, it felt a lot like how heavy the dumbbells you lift, where you've got like the just like normal guy's head on the buff body. So there's this one like, you know, generic glasses wearing, you know, high school anime boy who also is just like jacked from the neck down, and it looked really weird.
Yeah.
So that was interesting.
Yeah.
things in the show that didn't look good though. I shared a picture in the anime channel in our Discord of
that group
random
shot
scene of a classroom, and it is every character in this frame is off model. Like
it looks
in
like
a different
it
way.
looks like 1980s anime.
No, it looks, well, yes, but also like really bad 1980s anime.
Right, like really cheap. Like yeah, ugh. Boy howdy. Yeah. This is straight zeros for me. Like I don't, Fujo is not my thing. Fujo bait, not my kind of thing. BL stuff is not my thing. I don't care. But I know it can be done well. And if you have good writing, if you have character interactions that make sense, if you have anything like that, you can make it, like, it can be objectively good in that way while still not being for me. I think this was objectively bad and also not for me.
And I mean, that's a fair opinion. I think that what I'm saying when I say that I can see the appeal is that, like, as a sports story about a boy who loves the sport but can no longer play it, that story was told in a not awful way.
Yeah, it's not terrible. Yeah. It's almost like it gets distracted by trying to be Fujo bait. When if it were just a straight up story about this kid who can't do his sport anymore, it might actually be better. If this were a straight slice of life that was just about this kid who can't play his favorite sport.
Also, how many more hot, steamy scenes with boys does this have than if you were to just do a slice of life from this character's perspective about the sport? Because, like, there's a lot of that kind of just comes naturally in sports anyways, right?
Locker room scenes and shit like that you can actually get that stuff in.
That, like, we get all the time with, like, you know, girls undressing in locker rooms. Like,
that's exactly right. Yeah.
For better or for worse. Also, so
zeros.
Quick little tidbit: the number 24 in the title, I think, is referring to all the managers have like 24 on their jackets, and so I don't know if that's like maybe a rugby specific thing in the same way that, like, you know, you've got like the 12th man in football is the crowd. Maybe like there's something about like number 24 being a positional number or something like that. But that's why they're called number 24, is because it's
maybe that's just the number that they assign them that's just the manager.
Like you're on the team, but the manager's always number 24. Yeah.
Right.
So,
well,
who knows?
That brings our total score for this show to a 0 or 0%.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well deserved.
Half is
And with that, let's take a quick break.
Cool.
All right.
Listeners, we'll be right back. If I can remember how to press buttons. Okay, like that. All right, we're back. I apologize for the abrupt stop in music. It's much more difficult to adjust the volume with this music player that I'm using. In Spotify, it's real easy. It's got a volume slider, and you slowly bring the slider down, and then I hit mute, and then I hit unmute, and then hey, here we are. But with this music player, there's no volume slider. The next show we have to talk about is ARP, Backstage Pass. Chris?
Anime of the season.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna agree.
Will you guys, we have to decide worst anime between this and number 24. Like, either of these shows wins a different bracket, but they're in the same bracket.
Oh, there can only be one. I feel like we've had episodes like this before.
Spoiler, I would much rather watch ARP than number 24.
Same, actually. So, let's let Chris tell us why ARP isn't quite as bad.
Let's case. So we open up on very generically, pop idol boys group. We've all seen these before. And they're doing a song and dance while they sort of narrate over who they are. It's like, I think it's like Artists for Public Productions or something like that. Which I looked up because I kept like kind of hearing these things that suggested it might be like a real deal. So from what I can gather, unless like this is just like the fiction, like really trying like hard to sound like it's real life, my understanding is that this is basically a virtual band that is kind of like, like if you sort of take Hatsune Miku, this is another band, but it's a boys idol group that has like, personalities, and this show is going to be part of them kind of like fleshing out who those personalities are without them being actual people. So it's like, it's an actual band that does actual performances IRL, a lot of them virtually. And now they have a show
virtually.
Yeah. All of them virtually. Yeah.
Motion capture and real musicians and real artists behind the scenes to make this Vocaloid mocap group a real thing. This everything about this show and the group behind this show is a clusterfuck of I don't understand what's going on anymore. Feed me more of it to my eye holes.
And also, why? Like,
so that's a much longer discussion. There's something to be interesting to be said about the phenomenon of the virtual idol, where like I think we've talked about this briefly before when we sort of talked about like Hatsune Miku and or Virtual Son and stuff like that. The idea of like the idol that you can follow that is also like never going to disillusion you because like they aren't real people, and if like the person behind the person or behind the idol, like for some reason has a falling out or quits or whatever, you just sort of replace them with someone else and the idol keeps going. So there's like this really weird dynamic of blurring the line between fiction and reality.
My understanding though is that they actually record the vocal track.
Yeah.
They record the vocal track and they record the mocap. Just be an idol group.
So those who can do, those who can't become a Vocaloid group?
Maybe.
So Hatsune Miku makes sense because she is a program. Like Hatsune Miku, the voice is the program. The idol is the program.
It's entirely possible that the people that are singing and the people who can do fantastic dance moves are two different people. Like voicing a character and then James Earl Jonesing Darth Vader.
I mean, in a certain way, it's kind of like gorillas.
To follow?
People like this?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like it's a little bit like gorillas in a sense that like they are like the some of the instrumentalists and stuff like that might rotate in and out. So like we have like these avatars.
Yeah, it's a
like,
guy. Gorillas is a guy.
So anyway, maybe something kind of along those lines, but without sidetracking us too much, a little bit of context as we go into this. So we have the characters from this band kind of introducing themselves. We get into the OP, and so like there's actually like 3D dance sequences, which we've seen in a lot in idol shows. And actually, this looks really good. And I was wondering if it was all going to be like pretty good looking 3D. And then halfway through the OP, so like this is probably like 2 or 3 minutes in at least, we get our first glimpse of 2D. It's like, okay, it is going to be hybrid, for better or for worse.
And the 2D is a slideshow. This show is a PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah.
Oh
The
my
2D
God, is it bad?
The 2D looks good, but doesn't move much. And so like you definitely tell like they wanted it to like look consistently, like have like a certain level of visual fidelity, but then they didn't want to spend the budget to make that visual fidelity actually animate.
This show's 2D animation is Apex Legends on Intel integrated graphics. Like, this thing is so fucking bad.
I don't think you could even run Apex on integrated, but as someone who used to have to play with integrated.
The thought that I had from the animation was, for all of the stuff where they're not being idols, where they're just being people, that's drawn by some team. And then all of the actual performance stuff is the Vocaloid software. That was what I think is going on there.
That would make sense if you're actually using the same 3D program that you use for your actual Vocaloid performances.
Maybe.
But I don't think this is Vocaloid either. Like, the Vocaloid is the voice program.
So, well,
Okay,
yeah.
the
So, which
entire
I guess
idol
what you mean is like
experience.
the virtual presence thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious if like, you know, when they do these shows, if it's live or if it's like pre-rendered or whatever, because they have live, like, so like I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but at the very end of the show, they go full virtual sun and they have like their VR avatars that they're talking to you through. And it's like a noticeable difference in appearance. And so I kind of feel like that might be closer to the actual product than is anything else in the anime.
I'm glad I think you're right. I don't know for sure, but I think you're right. But so assuming you're right, I'm glad that for the actual anime, they were like, yeah, this mocap shit ain't gonna cut it. And actually did decent CG.
The reading that I did after watching this show suggests that this is an actual band. This show is a documentary behind the scenes about that band. And that group is a thing that actually does performances, because what I was able to read was they have gamified the shit out of their concerts.
Yeah, apparently there's a lot of interaction.
You sign in when you go to the concert, you like vote for your favorite idol to give your idol points. The people who are interacting the most have their comments show up on the screen behind the performers.
So it's like second screen app based.
Yeah, and they will send you messages if you're one of the top 10 supporters of the show. So the voice of Leon or whomever will send you a voicemail at the end of the performance. The reading that I did suggests this is a for real thing.
Which makes sense, and it seems very much like something Japan would do. If this show is meant to be sort of a pseudo documentary about the behind the scenes of this, I'm assuming fictional band, then, because it's not like part of my confusion with this is that there are supposedly a group of people who have the talent to be an idol group and have instead elected to mocap and record and do virtual shows instead of being an idol group, which is...
Well, like I said, the person performing the stunts might be different than the person doing the voice, and that would be very bad for an idol group. Right?
Like,
and there's also something to be... And also
okay, so if this is a fictional group of people, then this show is just showing us the fictional life of the individuals, not the behind the scenes people, which makes sense.
My understanding. Yeah.
Right. So it's exactly the Gorillas. It's every video that you watched on, Plastic Beach, the website and stuff like that, where it's like the band hanging out in their dumb plastic tree thing and all this other stuff. Like, it's Gorillas. This is a fictional band doing fictional band things, which makes more sense. But
well, I mean,
and as far as like why you don't just be an idol, like there's an argument to be had for whether or not this is or isn't more lucrative than doing actual idol stuff. But as at least an alternative business model, like the interaction and stuff like that kind of does engage the audience in a way that it's hard to achieve. Like we were talking in another episode recently about the underground idol scene and all the things they have to do to try to engage with their fans and all that different stuff.
Right.
And so this lets you kind of take it to another level that maybe is appealing in a way that other idol stuff isn't or can't be. I don't know.
So this group,
This is exactly the opposite of Carol and Tuesday.
yeah,
Mhm.
it seems that way. So this group is a okay. So there's where Gorillas is a guy who has these characters and then just uses session musicians and some of the musicians are like named and have been there for a while, but some of them are session guys and they come in and they play the part and then they, so if Gorillas is a guy, this is an idol group that consists of, I'm going to assume because of the way Japan does things, this idol group isn't a guy, it's a committee. And the committee
Team,
the committee puts together the dancers and the choreographers and the people who are gonna, wear a mocap suit and dance, the people who are gonna sing into the sticks. A committee puts together this thing. This is a production company's boy, this seems like a grift. This really seems like a grift.
Because ARP, I'm pretty sure, is referring to the company.
Right.
Yeah. So it's actually, I think when I was reading up on it, it's a dual acronym. So it means both like Artist Republic Productions or whatever, and then also like augmented reality performers or something like that.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. So the reason this feels like a grift to me is because Vocaloid is Vocaloid is the program. Vocaloid is what can you do with this program it's basically, it's kind of like being an EDM producer, but you're using this Vocaloid program to deliver the vocals instead of having an actual singer, and so you basically produce the music bed and then you program the Vocaloid, and you can do cool effects on it and stuff like that. There's some really good Vocaloid metal out there that's a lot of fun to listen to. That to me feels like art in a weird, that to me feels like it feels more real. Whereas this feels like a committee found a way to have a touring band without having to pay to have a touring band.
Oh
like
no,
it's
absolutely
fake idol performances.
It's absolutely like the Carol and Tuesday, like the thing that they were sort of hinting at with like the AI performers and stuff like that, where it's like, you can, when I say this, like metaphorically, people will say like, idol groups are like manufactured, marketed, like they sort of like take all like the market data and stuff like that and say, this is the image we want you to present. And like, they kind of, make you play this role. This is just taking it up to the next level where it's literally virtual characters.
You just build your own idol. You don't have to get a bunch of boys together and have them dress up and look pretty and worry about acne and all this other shit. You just build them.
Yeah.
And
you don't have to worry about you
you
don't have to worry about the fallibility of humans. You just have these like perfect manufactured things, which is
I'm hating this more and more as we continue
it's an interesting phenomenon, yeah. But anyways, to kind of get back to the actual show.
Sorry, what's the show about?
I mean, basically what we did is we just like front loaded the discussion that's going to happen after the synopsis. So, but yeah, so they introduce themselves and like basically we get like kind of a short. It's essentially a series of shorts in this first episode that kind of introduces us to each of the characters. And so the first one is a sad boy who's a rich boy whose dad was a world famous music performer, I think a violinist. And so he was like kind of pressuring him to like, be in music and to perform really well. And we get a lot of kind of vignettes of the boy doing his best. But like he's doing like a violin concerto and the audience is completely silent, which I wasn't sure if that was supposed to mean like it's the sort of Japanese style thing they do at movies, like if they're really silent at the end, it's a sign of respect, or if it was just them being like they're not reacting to performance. But you'd think you'd get at least polite applause. I feel like the polite applause would actually hit you worse than the dead silence they're giving him, because that was just weird. But apparently he reacted to it poorly, so it says to me that they just didn't like his performance. And so we see him like tearfully taking a scolding from his dad for not being good enough and all this different stuff. And then at one point he gets a card in the mail, assumedly printed from a wall somewhere in some underground facility, that says ARP, and it invites him to join the school. Like they sit down for this interview. I want to be clear about something before we begin.
Wall style.
That's what, that was my reference that I was making. But he sits down for the interview, and he said, like, I want to make something very clear before we begin. We are performers, but we are also students at this academy. That's like, it's like the International School of Music or something like that. And like, we're all training to be great musicians and great idols. And so he gets invited to go to the school, and he gets to join this group ARP. When he's actually, his on-stage presence is very different, because like he's typically like, dark haired, glasses, but when he's on stage he's blonde and without glasses, and that's the magical transformation that he takes on. He's also apparently a lot more charismatic than he seems, because he seems kind of like very depressed, and like he kind of brings the mood of his dog down when he comes back home and stuff like that. I forget if this is all before or after he joins ARP. I'm pretty sure it's before. Yeah. And so, that's his backstory. And then the next two boys in the group are they were in kind of like underground street performance level rock bands. And so they're the rocker guys. They're the hardcore, even though they're not really all that hardcore. They're kind of just like scraping by a living. And then they get invitations from ARP, and the same manager guy who I think approached our first boy comes up, and he's like, hey guys, so we'd like you to join our school and to be part of this group. And he's like trying to, one of the guys is trying to drive this hard bargain. It's like, well, you see, we've got so much cash, we don't know what to do with it. We're just literally throwing 1,000 yen bills in the garbage because we have no room for them. And so he's like, so if you want us to come to your school, you're gonna have to like, give us more incentives. And he's like trying to negotiate.
You're gonna have to give us everything for free, because we don't want to spend the money we have too much of.
And so like they already had incentives, like on-campus housing, free tuition. It's like, well, we're also gonna need 3 meals a day. He's like, okay, I think I can arrange for that. And so like after they finally agree, and they're like, yes, that was a tough negotiation, but we got everything. We don't have to worry about money for the next few years, and it's gonna be awesome. And then you see the manager getting in the car, and he's just kind of like, too easy. So clearly he was just playing along with them. So that's how they joined the band. And so like he's got kind of like the more like rocker singer sort of style, and the other guy's like the rapper of the group, and so he's kind of got this rap thing going on. And then our last boy is Leon, who they imply possibly that like he's mixed based on like his skin tone, and like his parents look to be different from one another. So I'm guessing based on the name that like either his mom was like Spanish or Brazilian or something like that. There's a very large Japanese population in Brazil, so I would totally believe that there was some sort of like back and forth immigration there. But his whole little vignette is he's going around sort of like dancing to the beat of his own brain drum, and he's kind of humming as he does it.
He was at the First Boys concert. And he was humming along to like First Boys concerts music.
And so he's apparently like so what tends to happen a lot in idol groups, and I know this more from K-pop as it was explained to me, but I'm sure a lot of it's the same in J-pop, where every member of the group has kind of like a position. And so they're kind of like, here's the rapper, here is like the lead singer, here's the lead dancer, that sort of thing. So this guy's clearly the lead dancer, but he's also a very talented singer, and he kind of alludes to like, I wish I could sing more, but what the group wants me to do is be the dancer. So I do a lot of dancing as well as singing, but like they kind of imply he's actually got the most natural talent of anyone.
And range.
Yeah.
They have this musical range.
They have a horrific scene in a classroom when the teacher is like playing a few notes on the piano, and then like everyone in the classroom has to, sing like and so they keep doing that, and like people sit down as they can't hit those notes, and he just keeps going and he never stops. So we have the shot of him where like it's just like from the neck up, and it's just like this like 3-frame animation of his mouth just opening like super wide, and like this like kind of like this like lemon shaped mouth happening, and he just keeps going he's not actually cracking like I am. I was making a joke, but it just like it sounds like this very weird kind of like almost
you contrast him going higher and higher with the horrified look on the piano teacher as she's running out of notes to play in front of this eldritch being who is able to make
eldritch is exactly the thought that crossed my mind. And so that's how we get
She
introduced
just
to
goes
him.
off the piano to notes that don't exist, and he's going, the windows shatter. He's just like, I can do this all day, bitch.
And toward the very beginning of the episode, like they have their show, and then they're talking about like, you know, how busy they are with like their labs and stuff like that. It's like, oh, we got to sneak in like, you know, one more interview today. It's like, oh man, we're so busy. And then they sit down for the interview, and then that's how we get these vignettes about how they came together. And at the end, like I said, they go full virtual son. We see them in their kind of like VR chat personas, actually fairly well animated given what it was, but you can definitely tell the difference. And they're sort of trying to give us like this like kind of fourth wall breaking, like, okay, so yeah, that was the first episode of the show, and you know, this is going to be a show about our lives, and like, you know, it's actual events that happen with real people, which like, again, blurring that line between you know, fantasy or fiction and reality. It's like, is this like real events from the fictional band, or is it like the people behind the band? It's, I don't know, who cares? Well, someone cares. And then they sort of give that introduction, and then that's basically the end of the show. And they promise that the coming episodes are going to be a lot more dramatic. I will say, to the show's credit, like all these little vignettes we get, they actually do some decent jobs with kind of visual storytelling, and they kind of mixed up their format. It wasn't like the same, like they didn't present each person the same way. They kind of had like their own kind of feel. Like I said, Leon had his whole thing was basically just him humming and dancing along with like very little dialogue until the end. Whereas, well, actually, like even the first guy, I'm forgetting his name, but he didn't have very much dialogue either. It was mostly just visual storytelling and the way they kind of cut it together. So I have to give it props for, you know, doing something kind of interesting with their premise. This could have just been another of the, like, name any given boy idol group show we've watched, you know, King of Prism, the one with the school that I'm drawing a blank on, anything in the Prism universe, of course, the interconnected Prism universe that we've established. So yeah, is interesting.
Does this show actually intersect with the Prism universe, Ryan?
Yes, it does. The question is how.
So we talked before about the different refractions that come from the prism, and so each of these refractions is a different, like, you know, like universe in the multiverse. This just happens to be our universe.
So this is Earth 616 or whatever it is in the MCU. It's Prism 92.
So this is the part of the Prism multiverse that we as AniFiles exist in.
Nice. Shit. No, I don't like this. This means that by extension, I'm a character in an idol anime, and I do not like this.
We are all complicit in this.
I need to. I dropped the fictional bios for these fictional characters in the Discord chat. They are eminently hilarious.
I dropped a picture of who Leon reminds me of from video games in the AniFiles chat, because he's the entire time I saw Leon on screen, I was like, he's gonna fucking summon his persona. Let's go, Jiraiya.
Yeah, Yosuke from Persona 4.
Yeah.
Oh, good. I'm glad that all these character bios have birth date and then astrological sign.
Mm-hmm. Do they have blood type?
Yeah, blood type.
Height, weight.
Height, weight. I call my fans princess and knight.
Aren't you?
I feel like I'd be
quirky.
a little bit offended if a guy came up to me and called me knight. It's like that's just like a weirder form of like buddy or chief or something like that, you know?
Right?
Actually,
this
buddy
guy calls his fans
sub
members.
Huh?
Ooh. He has a Japanese father and a Brazilian mother.
Hey, I called it.
From Kobe. I'm not making that up. The very next two words are from Kobe.
Kobe, I think it is, but
oh, okay. There's no accent on the E, so I.
This guy calls his fans Tan and Tan Men.
Navigator of Brigley, ARP Instagram.
Oh man, these things are amazing. By the way,
So the
Xtranslate is a great plugin. I love Xtranslate.
That is handy. The reason I call this the opposite of Carol and Tuesday is Carol and Tuesday are a fictional band with a real Instagram account, whereas these people are a, quote, real band with a fictional anime.
Yeah, like this is such an interesting thing. Like I don't like it. Again, it feels to me as if a production company has found a way to have a touring idol group without all the overhead of having a touring idol group.
We've talked before about how like J-pop and K-pop is like the pinnacle of commercialization of media.
Yeah.
And this somehow outdoes that.
It's transcendent.
But in a way though, it almost feels more honest as a result. Like we're just acknowledging that this is a product, and it's literally just a product. You know,
that's
I don't know.
Because it's not pretending to be real. It in fact knows that it's fictional.
There's something weird to me about getting invested in fictional idols. Like it's one thing if they are fictional characters. Oh, so let's put it like this way. When we liked Darling in the Franxx, they had all the EDs with the group, like the idol group, quote unquote, that is the characters from the show singing. And if we were endeared to those characters and then they formed a group and then we got to follow that group, I feel like that is something that I can relate to a little bit more than finding out about this group and then becoming more invested by learning their backstories. Unless there's just something really interesting about that, but there's not. Like these are just like very generic, like here's my personality because I grew up this way or something like that. I don't know.
Can I for a moment talk about how garbage the show looks? Because the show looks like garbage. The 2D animation is awful, and they mix 3D elements with the 2D elements in a way that is in no way natural or convincing. The 2D animation is done at the pace of a PowerPoint presentation. The 3D animation that's mixed with the 2D animation, and I'm not talking about when it switches to 3D. I'm saying when they have 3D elements in the 2D space.
Like a car dropping off Rich Boy at his house.
Right. That's animated at a full 30 frames a second. And the boy's walking out of the cart 12. And it's absolutely ridiculous and terrible looking. There's a scene where all the boys are sitting in a room.
If you're going to mix 2D and 3D, I actually tend to prefer if the 3D is smooth and the 2D isn't, over trying to make the 3D choppy to match the 2D. Well, it was
like, I either way, like there's ways to do it convincingly. We've seen it before, but for example, there's a scene where the boys are sitting in a room and there's like two of them on a couch and someone knocks on the door and one of them gets up to walk over toward the door and he literally walks like this to go to the door. It's steppy and bad.
For those of you not enjoying the video feed, Dean was kind of like going back and forth as he moved forward. It's kind of like if you've ever seen interlacing from like, old DV tapes on a standard def TV or CRT. You kind of get that like that weird like jittering that happens. Yeah.
He moves at like a ridiculous slow pace, and as like he's walking behind this table, this weird camera angle, it didn't work. And it's just, I hated every moment of watching this because the animation was just so, and the 3D stuff was good. It did look good. It looked way better than Prism. It looked way better than a lot of the 3D stuff we've seen. But any time it showed 2D elements, it was like, oh.
We have seen better 3D shows though, right?
Like we have. The one about the gemstone people was better looking than this.
Planet of the Lustrous is so good.
Yes.
Yeah.
To the point of the 3D animation, I really did like the 3D animation, and I can point to in the first couple minutes of the show where they're doing their introductory dance and they're waving their arms around. all four characters have different arcs.
Yeah,
for
they
their
were.
arcs.
It was different timing, and one of them was way off too. But
Yeah.
like they
But, like,
obviously
they're-
like did that. They animated each one of those
Right.
models individually.
There are four different skeletons there. They even have a different range of movement. One of the characters like goes way up and way down, and
Yep.
one of the other characters is like phoning it in like 90 degrees, 45.
He is not
Exactly.
doing his best together with everyone.
No, he's not. But the 3D, the whole show should have been 3D. And also it speaks to the idea of the band itself. If you have this 3D virtual band, why aren't they 3D all the time? Why are they ever 2D?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense that these people should be 2D at any point in time.
I'm glad you brought up the opening sequence because I had completely forgotten about it, but this show just immediately gets off on the wrong foot. I don't know if you guys remember from King of Prism, we have street style and traditional style, and we have one street style boy, and he gets a nice scene towards the end of the season, and his song is just whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah.
That's all this opening
It sounds like
sequence
the
is.
Who's in Whoville just going, oh, who.
So something else
Their
that
opening song was that. Their opening song felt not great.
Trash.
I felt like that was an
Animation
intro.
motion
Like that was
good.
I felt like that was like when the band comes out on stage and does like an introduction. I felt like that was just the backing track, like to the introduction they were doing, where they're waving like, and then they would go into a song from that. Like
There was
that's
an
what that felt
interesting,
like to me.
I forgot to mention too during my synopsis that like the show is very frequently interrupted by like fairly lengthy like musical like song and dance sequences. It actually felt a little bit like I always forget the name of the show, but we reviewed it in our first season or maybe our second, where we had the heterochromia guy and the guy who was racing through the forest in his car.
Yeah.
God, yeah.
And like how they like kind of constantly like it felt like short little story bit and then like mini music video, story bit, mini music video. And so this definitely had this feeling of like, not only is this a way to sort of explore the backstories of your favorite characters, but we're going to give you like plenty of like little musical segments too, because you like love this band or whatever. So it felt kind of a variety show in a way. More so than like just a straightforward even like
it's probably supposed to be right. That it's interesting you point that out because it seems to me, based on what I've learned about this band in the last 15 minutes or so, it seems to me like it's supposed to be an extension of the concert. So like the concert is a multimedia experience, right? It's got the second screen app thing. It's got, you know, you've got interactive sequences and things like that. It seems to me like that's kind of what the show is trying to be too. It's trying to be a bit of a multimedia experience in itself, which is why it could feel like a variety show, is because it is kind of.
Chris, dynamic chord.
Dynamic chord. Yep.
Dynamic chord.
That was
that's
very
the one.
important to me to remember that.
Thank you for
We
looking
have
that
an
up.
interesting idol group here too, because it's two guys who do like regular idol style stuff, and it's two guys who do rock music. And the two guys, like, it's two separate bands. Or three. Actually, it's three bands.
Yeah, it's like three
because
different groups,
Two
and
of
then they
them are
also come
solo
together.
artists.
Yeah.
Right. Two of them are solo artists, and then the other two are in the rock band. Which is strange.
It's very idolized, and not like that's a weird way to put it, but it's a very idolized rock group too. It's like they bring rock style to idol music, and the way that we've kind of talked before about how like within the genre of idol, you've got like a lot of sort of like subgenres, different styles that like definitely comes through in like King of Prism. And
Actually, it's a little bit baby metal. Like it felt a little bit baby metal, just without the cute girls. It was boys instead doing.
I think baby metal leans into the metal heavier than these guys did, but
yeah, I agree with that. These guys were more like alt rock. Like if you wanted to do, yeah,
it just it felt like a slightly edgier form of your typical boy group
it's like
idol.
it was radio metal basically. Like I thought it was mostly just like radio metal with boy band vocals. Is what it felt like to me. Of course, I also hate radio metal.
To your point about it being a variety show kind of thing, my watching of it was we just finished this concert intro sequence. We have to go do this interview. By the way, this interview is going to be the basis for our anime. It's a thing that they said, very fourth wall breaky. Then the actual interview is, how did you four come together? And what we're seeing is first boy, good in school but bad at performance, gets recruited by ARP, and then this is his first ARP show. Next group, we get to see where they're coming from. We get to see where they're struggling. They get picked up, and then this is their ARP show. So it wasn't to me so much a variety show as this is the formula: before, after, before, after.
Right. Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
And I get why that is variety and jarring, but it felt to me like there was an actual attempt at narrative structure there.
Oh yeah, no, I agree with that. It just the fact that you kind of went back and forth between like narrative and then concert with like very little sort of like, because what they do in a lot of idol shows is even when they have the concerts, they don't just cut to it. They kind of like have like, here's the buildup and we're about to go on stage and now we're actually going on stage. And so it definitely, because it
and then
was
it's like cut to 3D performance and then at the end of it, it's back to 2D. Like, yeah.
Right. It felt like an actual structured choice as opposed to just variety.
Right. Just being skits.
Right.
Shall we get on to ratings?
Sounds good.
Chris, what are your ratings?
ARP Backstage Pass Episode 1, Virtual Producer Son is looking. Did the premise interest me? See, this one's weird because I find everything that we talked about with like the weird kind of meta nature of this is kind of fascinating, but not in any way that like I would seek out this show myself. So I'm going to give that a no. Did the production impress me? The 3D was very good. The 2D, like I said, looked clean and consistent, but it wasn't animated very well. So while it did look good, it didn't look amazing. I'm going to go ahead and say it did not impress me. Did the storytelling impress me? I'm actually going to say yeah. Given what it was, and given that, like I said, they actually had some like kind of cool visual storytelling too to go along with these characters. I mean, like the story wasn't incredibly compelling, but it was told well. So I'm going to give that a yes. Did I enjoy the first episode? Didn't hate it, but no. Did the first episode make me interested to see more? It did not. So that's just a 1 overall for me.
Dean?
Yeah. Scenario interest? No. I don't care about this virtual band and their virtual life. Production I thought was bad. I thought the show looked bad. The 3D stuff looked fine. The 3D stuff looked good. The whole show should have been 3D. My title for this is ARP Backstage Pass Episode 1, my PowerPoint presentation about idols. Like, it's so bad. And it's a shame because the 3D did look good. It's some of the better 3D that I've seen, especially in an idol show. So, the storytelling... is there a story? It's just kind of like character introductions mostly. And like, here we meet a producer and then we trick him into doing what he was gonna do anyway, and now we have concert. Like as far as look, I guess it's fine, and with it being the structure that it is, actually that you pointed out, Adam. Yeah, I actually kind of dig that. I guess it's just I didn't feel like there was any meat here. We saw a lot of well animated song and dance, and not much story. I didn't like watching it. I'm not interested to see any more of this.
Then for me, ARP Backstage Pass Episode 1. Aren't they quirky and adorable? Straight zeros for me. Similar reasoning to Dean. Adam?
ARP Backstage Pass Episode 1. Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy?
That's the question we're all asking.
It was the question I was asking after I did a bunch of research about what the fuck did I just watch. And alternate title, I don't want to date someone real, so I'll just hit on Hatsune Miku. Premise, no. Production, yes. Production the 3D sequences were really, really pretty, and they offset the 2D less prettiness. Storytelling, yeah. I mean, I learned what these characters are about. I learned why they're in an idol group. I learned their fictional, real, fictional, fake, made up, real backstories, question mark. This show is impossible for me to talk about as an anime because it's not.
Yeah.
And it's getting high marks.
This is a commercial.
For me. Yes, yes, it is. It's a.
I mean, as so many
episode
anime
long-
are, to be fair, but
Yeah,
It's a 12-episode long Transformers commercial about lights that I could see if I was in Japan on the right day. I'm giving this high marks because it does not do anime stuff. It's not fair to call this an anime. Did I enjoy it? I did. I wasn't expecting to, and then I did, and it ended, and I was like, where's the rest of this story? What? So I'm probably going to watch at least one more episode of this because I don't know why I'm doing this. I don't know why I'm buying into this commercial, but I'm going to. And I hate myself for giving this show a 4 that it doesn't deserve because it shouldn't be on this show.
hey, you know,
I was about to say it's okay to hate yourself.
I mean, we've talked before about how like the way our rating system works. Sometimes an objectively bad show gets a weirdly high subjective score because like what this really is not even so much like subjective enjoyment so much as subjective interest.
Right.
And so like somehow it interested you, and that is fine.
Somehow there are hooks, and they have been pierced into my body, and I have to find out more about this fictional group that I'm never going to see.
Yeah, 2 of our questions, it's interesting you say that, 2 of our questions directly relate to how interested we were in this. So yeah, it absolutely is that.
All right. That brings our total score for this show to a 5 or 25%. The next show we have to talk about is Bofuri. I don't want to get hurt, so I'll max out my defense, just in case you were wondering where all of Adam's secondary titles are coming from. Dean, will you explain this
I'm
show?
so glad I get to talk about this one. So we have a girl who has procured a new video game. It's a helmet with gloves. That's right. We're in SAO now, baby. So she's
that's two this season.
Yeah, exactly.
If
So
you
her
die
friend
in
hasn't
the
logged in
game,
yet.
Nothing happens in
friends-
real life. You're fine.
Yeah, no.
It's all good.
It seems that way. It seems like you're absolutely fine if you get hurt in the game, which frankly is a refreshing twist on this stupid
And
genre.
also, so sorry, but every time she says like I don't want to get hurt, does she just mean like because this doesn't have any indication there's actually like like haptic feedback or anything? It's just I guess
she's
she
just scared of losing.
Yeah, I guess she just want her character to die because like she says like oh that hurts when the poison hits because her health meter starts going down. It's like do you just literally mean taking damage? All right.
Right.
I play video games, and whenever my character gets hurt, I'm like, which doesn't make any fucking sense because I've got an Xbox controller in my hands. This doesn't do a damn thing when I get hit by the monster, but
It might vibrate a little.
Sure, you could just put little what are those called? The little
PlayStation 4 controller.
the little needle thing that diabetics use. I can't remember what that's called. It just goes chick. You could just put those all in the controller. When you get hit, it just goes chick.
Just put a bunch of electrodes on your body and hook them into the haptic feedback on the controller. So every time the controller vibrates, it literally shocks you.
Get like a mild shock every time you take damage.
Just play Ring Fit over an active volcano. See what happens.
So her friend hasn't logged on yet, so she puts on the dumb helmet and the bad gloves, and she starts. For some reason, the gloves have this little like spot that you touch in the middle that looks exactly like the Spider-Man trigger mechanism from the comic books. Anyway, so she starts up in the game, and then she starts up at character creation, and she's like, man, I sure don't want to get hit at all. So she's like, I need to pick something that's good for defense. She sees a shield class, and she's like, oh, I'll be a shield class. Okay, so she's obviously choosing tank, right? Okay, cool, let's move on. So she picks the shield.
However, unlike a certain shield-based main character from last season, This shield character has a small dagger.
Yeah, it's a shield or great shield and short sword. I think they said, yeah.
Great shield and short sword combo, and that's what she's using. And so she has that
Fortnite kind of.
Yeah, kind of. So she's running this thing. She then goes into like stat, where you can put your stat allocation. She, at the beginning of a lot of different kinds of video games, you have a pool of points that you can put into different stats. It's kind of like, Dark Souls has this. A lot of games have this. And so generally what you'd want to do is you'd want to be relatively balanced and also consider your play style. So you'd put, some points in defense, some points in HP, you put some points in attack power, you put some points in maybe your mana if you like to play as a wizard or something like that. So you start allocating your points. So she puts all of her points in what they call vitality, which I do not agree with as the name for her defense.
Constitution.
Yes, exactly. Or something that's not, because it's vitality to me usually reads as
HP.
HP is vitality. Sometimes even mana is called vitality. I don't like calling defense vitality. So they have so she puts it all in vitality, and which is defense in this world. And she then goes out into the world, and she asks somebody, she's like, hey man, where can I, first she realizes she can't walk very quickly because there's a literal movement speed stat in this game that you can allocate points to, which is ridiculous.
Apparently it's derived from your agility, which I guess she set her, so she set her agility to 0. And so I don't know if this is one of those games where I don't take it as a game where the stat is your modifier. So if you had a +0 modifier, that's pretty standard. And, you see that in a lot of tabletop RPGs, but in a game like this, 0 stat in something sounds like broken, not right. Just you think that everything
exactly.
Yeah.
So agility.
This was when you get a look at her stat panel very briefly, it says that she's got 100 vitality, and I actually went back to check this because I'm a fucking nerd. And when she said she had 128 vitality, I was like, wait a second, the show hasn't shown us that. If you look really fucking closely, like some kind of nerd, and freeze frame exactly right, you can see that she has 100 vitality with a +28 modifier. So there are
because of the shield
modifiers
class
in this world.
So the shield class would have modified her so that she could have the +28 on vitality. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah,
so she's walking around. She's walking around all slow. She's like, I didn't put any points into agility, which, okay, first of all, agility should not affect movement speed. It should affect things like parry efficacy. It should affect things like block efficacy, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Evasion,
speed,
right. Dodge rolls.
Run speed.
Maybe run speed. Not walk speed. Yeah. Walk speed should be standard unless you have a weight limit in your game, like as one of your mechanics. Anyway, so
this might be too smart for this show, but I hope when her friend, the who you'll get to in a moment, the super champion, awesome video game player of all time, has trophies on her shelf and everything, joins the game and asks why she's walking so slow and says there is a run button.
Oh my god, yes.
That's probably too smart for the show.
So she slowly walks to the town, and then she asks somebody, she's like, hey man, I need to go grind some low-level beasties. Where do I go? And the chick is like, hey man, you go right over there, just to the forest, just west of town, and there's some low-level things. They'll come right at you. No big deal. Just go grind it. This is every MMO ever. Just right outside of the hub world that you spawn at, there's a little field, and there's gonna be a shitload of rabbits you have to kill. So she goes out into this little forest, and a rabbit headbutts her for an hour, and it just continually headbutts her stomach. It takes no damage, but it does no damage because her vitality's so high. And then
she's terrified by it. She's terrified by it.
Well, at first
she's like, hey, wait, that didn't hurt.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And then she starts having fun with it. It's like, hey, come at me.
So it keeps headbutting her
for an hour.
Exactly. And then it headbutts her shield and dies.
I actually
Now.
laughed out loud at that moment because she's like, Bunny-san! or whatever. It was
Right, she freaked out because it was cute and she killed it.
Yeah.
She felt bad.
That was kind of hilarious. I love
Doggies.
that.
But I have a question about the mechanics of this game. A shield is a defensive weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And it says at the beginning, when she first picks it, that it has no offensive capability.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
It
So,
says that.
I
She reads
understand
it.
your confusion. I understand your confusion. But what happens when a body traveling at speed
It suddenly stopped against a hard object with the corner that sort of like focuses the.
Oh, God damn it. So they kind of broke the rules of the world when they had the bunny die when because they said at the beginning of the game it's like no offensive capability to the shield.
I read that more as just like this is not the class you want to play if you're interested in offense. Like
I
like
guess.
even later she gets like the shield attack ability.
Shield bash, right? Shield
Yeah.
bash is a thing in games, but it just felt weird.
So,
Anyway,
Dean,
so
I agree with
What?
your point, but not at this. Not at this place.
oh
in the
yeah,
anime
the
yet.
later time.
The later
yeah,
time.
at the later
where
time when they
this
do it
exact
again.
problem is far more egregious.
Yes. So then she gets some XP from the kill and she funnels all that into vitality. She also gets a is it after this one that she gets another modifier that's like double
She gets
defense?
modifiers all the time.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
It's
we-
the
we have
easiest
to
MMO
talk-
in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, the balance in this game is trash. There are no hardcore players playing this video game because
No,
this is
none at all.
There are though. There are hardcore players playing this game, but to your point, I don't think that there are actual hardcore players playing this game because someone would have done this.
That other guy with the shield has been playing for a week. Because
Also,
this
they
is
have
the
this thing where,
easiest
like-
MMO on the planet.
Like all the abilities and stat boosts and stuff she earns is like always it's kind of like old school Elder Scrolls style where like in Morrowind like you'd improve your running by running, etc. Right? So
Right.
it's like as she takes attacks from things, she gains better defense, and as she gets poisoned by things, she gains poison resistance and stuff like that. The thing that kind of bugged me, and like it's fine because it's a narrative and they're trying to sort of like emphasize like how she's becoming this like impenetrable, like this invulnerable being, is they definitely. Either the game is very poorly balanced because it's giving her upgrades all the time, or I don't know. But it's she's getting these things constantly,
It also-
and
Yeah.
like with very little effort.
She gets a double death immediately. Like as soon as she kills the rabbit, like a level 1 creature in this world, she gets a double death boost immediately. That is game breaking. Like if you're getting double stat boosts every time you kill, like or when you kill a level 1 creature, that is game breakingly bad.
Unless it's just one of those games where like you end up like in the upper levels with just like millions of damage and stuff like that. They're just like
right.
like,
It
filling
just the
screen.
scale is too big.
Borderlands style scaling.
Right.
Mhm.
But
I
I
so
mean,
she
this clearly isn't that. This at best has linear, but seems to actually have like constant scaling. Where
It's,
like
like, weird.
between levels and gaining levels, especially on her poison resistance, it is like the same amount of time between each increase in level.
Mhm. Yeah, like
Yeah.
she goes from like
So
she goes from like master poison resistance to immunity in the same fight.
right.
she
So she
does.
gets
She
let's get to that
goes
fight though. She
Before that,
Yeah.
on the subject of this game and its balance, there was one part that made me really not like how numbers work. She accidentally kills the rabbit and goes from level 1 to level 2. And then immediately gets into the fight with the bee where she funnels her poison resistance to like really good or whatever it ends up at, like moderate or whatever, so she's not taking poison damage. And she kills that bee, and we've just seen her go to level 2, and the bee takes her to level 8.
I
yeah.
didn't notice
Again,
that.
it's gotta be one of those games where it's like you end up at like level 2000 or something like that. I don't know.
Right. It's
Well, that's
so
level 2
weird.
to level 8.
So
And
she
I
gets-
was like, but go ahead.
Every time she gets XP, she funnels it all into defense. When she's fighting the bee, she's getting hit with poison, a status effect. And as she's getting hit with it, she's slowly gaining immunity in it. And then she ends up like she's like just kind of hunkered down until she hits the bee with the sword.
Not just hunkered down. She's rolling on the ground saying, "Oh no, I can't take any more of this, bee-son. Please don't hurt me anymore."
Right. She's obviously faking it.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it to
be into poisoning her more.
Yeah.
Which
and then
was adorable.
Well, she does that. She funnels all of her XP from that into defense, but she killed the bee with the sword while she supposedly has 0 attack power. Which also makes no sense.
The sword is a pointed edge, and when something moving at speed
unless the sword gives like an automatic plus 12, kind of like the shield gave an automatic plus 28, like unless that's what happens, she should have no attack power whatsoever. She should have had to shield bash this bee. Anyway, so she fights the bee and whatever, and then she falls asleep, and all these animals start attacking her while she's AFK. And
the bee drops the double defense ring, which is
the bee. That's where she gets the double death, is from the bee. The bee drops this ring that's a double defense ring. That's an item in the game that gives you double defense. Anyway, so she gets that, then she passes out. Low-level creatures start eating at her. She swings the sword around and kills them when she wakes up. Then she gains a taunt.
No, she gains meditation from that.
Yeah, she gains meditation.
From that she gets meditation. Where does she get the taunt? She gets the taunt around this time.
Afterwards, I think. But the other thing that happens in that scene is the shield carrier that we'll see later sees her laying on the ground, not dead.
Right, and getting eaten by animals, and he's like, what the hell's going on here?
And just walks away.
Yeah, leaves.
Yes.
So she like gets off the game and she's like, man, I've got to do homework. Next day, she logs back on, and then she asks the shield guy that we saw earlier. She runs
into Emiya Shiro, who's taking a break from the Holy Grail War to play a shielder instead of an archer.
That's exactly right. So she's like, hey man, so where'd you get that cool shield, dude? And he's like, hey man, I'll show you. There's a person who plays this game literally only to be a merchant for some reason. Because this merchant is not an NPC. It's crazy. So he's like, okay, so let's go to this merchant over here. This is a person who plays Skyrim only to craft. So he goes over and he's like, hey man,
person who plays GTA RP, right?
That's exactly right. So they walk in there and she's like, hey, you crafty person, why don't you make me cool armor and a shield? And she's like, yeah, that's gonna cost you 1 million currency. And
what would you say about our main character's financial situation at this point?
Her financial situation is the financial situation of a person who just logged onto an MMO yesterday and is trying to buy high-level gear at a merchant. So not great.
Okay.
Is it she hasn't just like got a double money drop anklet that she equipped, and each monster drops like 50,000 currency, so she's now getting like 100,000 currency per kill and is just rolling in money? Are we
Based
sure?
on the rules of this universe, that's what should be happening.
She gets an ability where it's like, if only I had a nickel for every time I was attacked by a monster, and then like she does.
Every fight in this game gives you the equivalent currency of a gold grinding dungeon in any other game.
There is actually an ability like that in one of the Selma Castlevanias. Every time you get hit, you drop a bunch of money. So you just
get your money
in this world.
Wow.
Right here.
So she's like, so the person's like, it's gonna be 1 million nondescript currency, and she says, I only have 3,000 nondescript currency. Well, you're a little short, so you're going to have to grind more. Where should I go for nondescript currency? Well, there's a cave, a labyrinth with a poison dragon in it, and you can go over there, but you want to be a little bit higher level before you do. I hope she doesn't go alone, she says to the shield man after our main character walks off alone toward this dragon labyrinth.
That would be crazy.
Shield Man, however, did give her, and I quote, 50 full healing potions, half of his full healing potions.
Yes.
They're fellow great shielders.
Yes, exactly. So she's walking through this thing. She kills a couple of small creatures, gets a few XP points, funnels that immediately into defense. And then she
can't kill the slimes in the beginning, so she's like, sorry about this, and then she just like falls on them with her shield, and that's how she gets the shield attack.
Basically, shield bash damage. So then she later on she runs into the poison dragon. And the poison dragon starts hitting her with poison.
She muses while going through this dungeon. I wonder if this poison dragon cave has a poison dragon at the end of it.
The answer is no. No, it does not.
Really?
Oh, except it does. She runs into the poison dragon and starts poisoning her.
Okay.
And she only has like
Hydra.
it actually was a poison hydra. It was not a dragon.
Yeah.
It was they named it wrong in the game. Of course, they made a broken game. I don't expect them to name their creatures correctly. So, I mean, look, game development's hard. I get it, but this should be pre-alpha at this point. So she starts getting poisoned, and she only has like moderate poison defense. She's taking status damage that's affecting her HP very quickly. And so she's like, okay, I have to time this just right. Every time she gets a poison attack thrown at her, she waits for the HP to almost be empty and then chugs a potion. And she does this presumably all 50 times until she develops super OP invulnerability to status effects, basically. And
Just
then
poison immunity specifically.
Yeah, okay, poison immunity. And then the dragon wraps her up and starts trying to like boa constrict her. And here's how she kills the dragon, which
before that, it's worth pointing out. It's worth mentioning that the very first poison attack she takes from this poison hydra disintegrates her dagger and her shield.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Which is why she has to resort to this tactic.
Right. So she's doing the potion thing. Then she gets poison immunity. The hydra wraps her up and starts trying to pull a constriction move. Okay, so far, this fictional MMO has been relatively good at sticking to weapons-based attacks. Even if it's accidental, a shield bash is a thing. A sword is a thing. These things are things in games, and they make sense based on the weapons that she's holding. Thus far, apparently, this MMO also just lets you bite your enemies to death for no apparent reason.
And you don't even have to have an attack stat, and it's not going to take you that long.
So
because if all of her attack power was tied to the sword that was disintegrated, she should not be able to do any damage to this thing, correct? No, wrong.
When you have sharp edges that are being driven into each other by a high pressure force.
Oh, jeez. So she starts biting. She bites this dragon to death while it's trying to poison her and can't. But the dragon, by the way, this is weird too. See, dragons, usually, hydras too. Hydras have this as well. They have the same thing she has, teeth. They've got teeth, and their teeth probably have an attack stat because nobody makes a boss character in a dungeon with only one attack. So the dragon probably bites. What does it do? It does the
attacks.
Oh, the constriction.
Spray and constrict.
Yeah, but it doesn't use its teeth ever. Apparently, one of its 3 heads.
Yeah, do they explain at all how she gets out of the constriction? My memory is she bites it, realizes she can bite it, and then is no longer constricted.
I think it just recoils from that, and that's what lets her go.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
So she bites it, and then it goes away, and then there's a chest there, and the chest.
She doesn't just bite it, it goes away. She bites it, and then bites it, and then bites it. She's basically like eating the dragon alive.
Right.
She's actually chewing and swallowing, and at one point she says, "Thank you for using your poison attack again. It gives this meat a little bit of flavor."
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And she's like food criticizing. It's like it takes out some of the peppery flavor.
So we get this loot chest
Which is
after this battle.
interesting feedback. She doesn't take damage feedback, but she gets taste receptors.
Apparently. So we have a nice little loot chest here, and unlike any other MMO, where it's probably a random roll, maybe it's an assigned item, and it's probably going to be pegged to about maybe 2 levels above you. No, this thing's god armor. It's just got god armor, and in the actual flavor text of the armor piece, it's like, this is one of a kind. This is a one of a kind item. To which I would say, you're an MMO. Why would you spend time modeling, developing, and you have to bug test armor pieces, like you have to make sure there's not too much clipping, things like this. Why would you spend all that time for an armor set only one character's going to get? That is absolute nonsense. And not only
okay.
So I have a theory.
The situation as explained, possible. Real end game, like your best players in the world take on this super difficult dungeon you've put together. You give them each one. Okay, it's like this really cool reward, doesn't happen often. I think the problem maybe it's like first player to beat this particular raid dungeon or whatever gets this piece of armor, and only that character is going to get this piece of armor. Yeah, but this is like baby's first dungeon, and a girl who was under-leveled for the dungeon soloed it. Right. And then she comes out of it with an armor set that not only is it OP just based on stats alone, but every time it, a lot of MMOs have armor health, right? You'll have health on your weapons, health on your armor, health on things. You have to repair them and things like that in order to continue. It's a way for the money. I think it's it's kind of just a way for the game to suck gold away from your character so you don't hoard too much. Like, There's very little utility to it, I find, in a lot of MMOs. But, you have armor health. Apparently, every time this armor breaks, it immediately reforges itself stronger.
Yeah. Completely fair and balanced. My hope is that this game has a PvP system with loot stealing, which is why you would create a unique item like that.
That might be good.
That and possibly
like King of the Hill kind of thing.
Possibly procedural generation, or
could be procedural generation
or plot armor. But also
it's entirely plot armor. Yeah.
But also my other theory is that the reason, so probably she's getting like proportionally good thing of loot for kind of like swinging above her weight level wise, so maybe there's a bit of that, but there's also, I think, perhaps a hidden luck stat that is like basically inversely proportional to your other stats. And so because she only has like her points put into one stat, she has a whole bunch of zeros that are kind of feeding that luck stat, and that's why she keeps getting like the B ring drop and like the special armor drop, or she's just the MC of an anime.
That would make sense, actually. That would actually make sense. In any case, it's kind of it's not a balanced game in the least. This is like baby's first MMO kind of. Like this is
yes, Babby's first MMO, but my suspicion about that dragon fight, I have a note here, and it's world first, poison dragon defeated by eating it alive. Because her eating it alive didn't just trigger the treasure chest full of awesome loot. It also upgraded her poison immunity to the Hydra skill, which lets her use all of those attacks.
Yeah, she gained all of the poison dragon's attacks.
Which makes me think, from a game design point of view, that this was like, if you are able to do this ridiculous thing, then you will be rewarded with some awesome shit.
The game overlooked the fact that you can cheese this entire MMO just by maxing out one stat.
Yes. Absolutely.
Just unanticipated player behaviors, So perhaps the title for the show should be Ari Ferretta, I don't want to get hurt, so I'll max my defense. Deep cut there. So Ari Ferretta, he eats monsters to gain the monsters.
Yep.
Okay.
That is a deep cut. This show is ridiculous. And she literally finds plot armor at the end.
Yeah, the plot armor is an actual item in the show. I want to say, to this show's credit, I actually really enjoyed watching this show. Well, okay, no, that's not true. I did not really enjoy watching this show. I didn't hate watching this show. It does a really good job of distracting you from all the things we just talked about, which made me hate it, by being adorable just often enough that you don't gouge your eyes out from boredom. Jesus Christ, this is slow.
Yeah,
it is very slow. Speaking, by the way, you mentioned you didn't hate watching this show. I could see myself hate watching this show. Like, this is a very hateable show. Like, this show is eminently hateable. It's slow enough that you could get drunk while watching it with friends. Like, this might be a preeminent anime night show.
Maybe, yeah.
I really liked it, but I'm
I definitely see, like, how you could like this show. Like, parts of it are adorable. And so we just ragged on the balance of the game forever, but again, these weren't things that I thought of while watching the show. It took a little bit of prodding.
I also feel like the show is not like really trying to give us a balanced game. It's trying to show us a scenario in which someone who maxes out defense kind of accidentally becomes amazing.
Right.
And like she was doing things like calculating, like, okay, so if I've got like, 200 defense times 2, that's 400. So she's doing like math in her head on the fly and stuff like that. And it escalates so quickly that like I just read it as comedy. I didn't read it as like,
that's my title
for the past half hour. Like, we can pick apart the design very, very easily, but it's not really important.
That's my title, is Bofuri, where the game's made up and the mechanics don't matter.
Nice.
Her friend who got her into the game, who hasn't played the game yet, has like world's best gamer trophy, but we have no, like, what game did she play to get that trophy? As far as like, this character likes MMOs, which are not really esports ready games, right?
Right.
Like,
isn't it?
I mean, it doesn't.
I think it was just Mario. If I learned anything from The Wiz, I believe it's that being the best at Mario makes you the best gamer.
Okay.
That would make Darbian the best gamer. So I took a couple of notes, and I'm not going to go through them, but at 2 minutes and 30 seconds, I was like, well, this OP has all the trappings of a show that I'm going to watch the entire season of. So I was sold right there. And my biggest gripe with this game is none of the mechanics we've mentioned. None of the mechanics that we've talked about today make this game unrealistic to me. The thing that makes this entire premise and game unrealistic to me is that the name Maple was available.
This is supposed to be a very popular game. Why is one word...
Why did you get a name with no numbers in it?
Yeah.
How did you get a name with no numbers in it? A name that common with no numbers in it?
Maybe because it's English.
Maybe it's like Blizzard. Japan. Maybe it's like Blizzard. They have a hidden number attached to it that you have to.
So you can't have repeated names. You just need to have the that makes sense.
Right. She says my name is Kata, so I'm going to take Maple, and I bothered to look that up very briefly. Kata means maple, so
that works.
Yeah, but. Yeah, you managed to get a 5-character name with no numbers in it in an MMORPG that's played by a bunch of other people. I don't believe you.
Well done.
The rest of the game was just like, whatever. Sure. Quadruple your stat. I don't care.
Here's a trick. Go to a demon dictionary. If you go to an online demon dictionary, you can find the names of demons. Very few of them are taken. Very few of them are taken. So you can find cool one-word names.
Alternatively, you can press the random button and get something that's like vaguely pronounceable and
squelchy cheese or some shit.
Actually, yeah, like the last few times, like I've tried to just sort of like hop onto an MMO, and it's like I don't really plan to play this much. I just kind of want something like I just want to make a character because I way overthink my names. I'll just like hit the random button until I find something that's like that seems okay. I'll go with that.
Yep.
Squelchy cheese.
Random, Shadowhawk 54, whatever.
Actually, one of the things I kind of appreciate too is like if you do that on World of Warcraft, it will actually generate names based on the race. So that's
they
kind of cool.
Suck, but
yeah. They suck, but at least they fit the fiction. So unlike everyone else's names.
All right, shall we get into ratings for this show?
Bogram Lion.
Dean, what are your ratings for Beaufry?
Scooby Dude.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of all the Xbox Live default names that I can possibly think of.
So my name before Shadowhawk 54 was an auto-generated name from Xbox Live on like the original Xbox. Because like I didn't know what I wanted to go by, and so I just auto-generated names until I found one that wasn't awful, except that I was like 10, and so it was still awful. My name was Touched Dread.
Oh God.
All right.
Is that not the worst, edgiest bullshit you've ever heard?
Oh Jesus! It's auto generated.
That or like no offense to Shadowhawk, but like any variation of Shadow, Dark, like
No,
that's good. Thank you to Volt 56.
Just auto generate edgy teen.
For those of you just listening to this later, Volt 56 writes, Touch Dread? Hi, I'm Chris Hansen.
All right.
We're doing the thing.
Yeah,
yes.
the thing.
Scenario interest. This is another SAO, man. I don't give a shit. Production impressed me. It looked okay, actually. It looked convincing. Like it looked like people sat down and drew frames of an anime on a Cintiq tablet.
Like you do.
Like one does, yeah. So I mean, it looked fine. I didn't think it was impressive, but it looked fine. It's a fine looking show. The storytelling, actually, I think this is the only place I'm gonna give it a point. Because it actually, you can follow it. It makes sense. It is funny in places. It's engaging in places. It's a bit slow, but that's really the only fault I have for it, is that it's a bit slow. Did I enjoy episode 1? I don't think so. I don't think I enjoyed it. And am I interested to see more? No, I am not.
So the reason the show is a bit slow, and I looked into this, is that the show put all of its points in defense and has no vit and no agi. It has no agility, so it's got to be.
That makes sense.
For me, Beaufry, episode 1. One weird trick to beat every dungeon. Min-maxers, hater.
But they don't. All of the min-maxers in that.
Yeah, all the min-maxers like respect, dude. Like actually, it's funny because like you see like after she does something, like chatter starts happening, and like they go through it quickly enough, like you can't really follow it, but you basically get the impression it's like, hey, did you hear about like this like level 1 player who like was getting swarmed by bugs in the woods?
Yeah, it's obviously like the global chat.
Yeah. Did you hear about the player who like killed the poison dragon or so? Yeah, she kind of becomes legendary.
One person actually mentioned seeing her being eaten by monsters, and then I like paused to read all of the chat because I'm a nerd. One of the lines in there was, I tried that and got killed instantly.
There was one person in there who said, what, did she put all her points in vitality? It's like, yes, the answer is yes. That's
actually,
exactly
yes,
what she did.
Yep.
Yes, that's how you cheese this MMO. Go create a new character, put all your stats into one thing.
She's just created a new meta stat that's just like going to break the game, and then they're going to patch it out, and then she's going to like have to quit because the game is just like going to be too difficult.
She's going to lose all of her progress when they patch that.
Well, no, so they just rebalance vitality, and so now she's like, wow, I die and I can't kill anything.
Now you got to go grind like everybody else.
Welcome to the real world, jackass.
For season 2, I didn't want to get hurt, so I maxed out my defense, and now I'm completely useless at max level.
Did the premise interest me? I'm gonna give this a point, mostly because Sword Art Online, Gun Gale Online. No, fuck. Sword Art Online Alternative Gun Gale Online?
Correct.
Jesus Christ, that title is trash.
It's approaching Fate levels of titling.
Was actually pretty decent, And it did the same thing. It's like some girl plays an FPS game, and it's kind of adorable, except she actually got good. This girl exploited a balance issue that no one has noticed.
This might actually be an exploit. Like, I don't think this would be considered fair play.
I mean,
I don't know.
I don't think it counts as an exploit. I think it counts as an oversight.
An oversight that's going to get patched out.
Yeah.
And that's how the season ends.
No.
The season ends with the devs just going, all right, we're gonna push this patch, and
just the last scene is like, she's like, oh, there was a developer update. She's like reading the patch notes, and then just like it just shows on the screen. There's no commentary, there's no music, it's just silent, and we just see like, you know, like vitality has been tweaked in some way, and then we cut to credits.
vitality balance issues addressed.
And then you're just left to speculate about what happens after that.
Anyways, cute girls doing video game things can be good, so yes, I'm interested. Did the production impress me? No. It was decent, but not impressive. Did the storytelling impress me? I think I have been persuaded to give it a point. It was real slow, but also it manages to make you not notice, or at least for me, maybe you guys noticed all the video game balance while you're watching it, but I had to give it a little more thought before I realized, not notice and not care about how poorly balanced the game is, and it has adorable moments, so I will give it a point for storytelling. That being said, I did not enjoy it, and I'm not interested to see more, so only a 2 for me. Adam?
I don't want to get hurt, so I'll max out my defense. Episode 1, A Journey of 100 Levels, begins with a single login screen. Alternate title, I don't want to fail my exams, so I'll max out my studying time.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of the B-plot of this show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we get like one study shot of her, but it's like a thing where she's like not doing her homework while she's playing the game.
It's the other girl.
The other girl.
Oh, yeah. That's why she's not in the game yet.
Right. Premise, I'm a sucker for RPG-based anime. Sorry, show, you're not going to be the worst anime of this season. You're going to be not talked about after this episode.
Doomed to be forgotten.
Giving you a 5, and I'm going to watch all of you as you come out probably, but none of the other 3 will.
It wasn't terrible. I just
No, it wasn't. It was
I think this is an anime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think this is an anime night show.
Volt in chat. But furry, I don't want to get hurt, but I have no clue what the fuck I'm doing.
Yeah, basically, it was a delightful thing to watch. I liked the fact that it looked like RPG style menus and level up screens, and it was pretty enough. And I'm gonna watch more of it because I'm a sucker for shows about role-playing games when I could instead be playing role-playing games.
Volt just described me on my first 3 DC Universe Online characters.
Chris, what are your ratings for this show?
Bofuri, I don't want to get hurt, so I'll max out my defense. Episode 1, playing the long game. Did the premise interest me? I'm kind of with Ryan here, actually, to some extent. I was kind of amused by the idea of like, okay, maxing out your defense. It's like, that's like, we're all familiar with kind of like that style of play, but it's not a very preferable one for a lot of people. And so I was just kind of curious to see like, okay, so how were they going to handle like, you know, just maxing out defense? And they actually took it in kind of a funnier direction that I was kind of expecting, which I appreciated. So yeah, I'll say it interested me. Did the production impress me? No, it was fine, but it was not impressive. Did the storytelling impress me? No, because we did mention the pacing issues. It did have some humorous moments, and I kind of appreciated how they handled the premise. So I will say that I did enjoy the first episode. I thought it was amusing. I thought it was fun. Did the first episode make me interested to see more? Not really. Like, I kind of get it. Maybe if I have nothing better to do, I'll pop on a couple more to see if it stays funny. But there are plenty of other shows I'm going to prioritize over this. So that is just a 2 overall for me.
That brings our total score for the show to a 10 or 50%. What were you going to say, Adam?
I was going to say that I think this is my Shield Hero stand-in
Mm.
until Shield Hero comes back.
I think it's less the like RPG shows, more the like shields.
Volfurry, I don't want to get hurt, but gamer girls don't exist.
Actually, I was going to mention one of the things I liked about this show and some others that we've been seeing recently is I appreciate the portrayal of like girls liking games being cool and fun and normal. That's something that we need more of as someone who I've always advocated for. Yes, we need more diversity, both in the games development industry and in the gaming community. And actually, it's pretty split evenly. It's just that the people who are the hardcore gamers don't consider mobile games and such to be games, and so they don't consider a lot of the girls who play games to be gamers, which I disagree with. So.
All right. The last show we have to talk about is Inspector. Inspector. We have a boy, and he's outside, and he meets a girl, and the girl's like, "Hey," and he's like, "Who are you?" And she's like, "I saved your life. You said you were gonna remember me forever." And so she reminds him of the time that she saved his life, and she didn't really save his life. She caught him when he was gonna fall, but she fell in love, and so she really held him to that. I'm gonna remember you, but he didn't fall in love, and so he promptly forgot her like a reasonable human would. Also because he had a hot anime girlfriend.
Also, it's been 2 years.
Yeah, also it's been 2 years
since she saved his life.
Also, I liked how he said too, like when she says, like, "I just saved your life just now." It's like, I suppose it is possible to die that way. Like if you were to fall straight backward, and if an object at speed strikes a flat, unmoving object,
right,
it could
flat
cause.
surface.
Yeah.
Right.
But that would also assume that the person falling doesn't have like the reflex to curl their head in just a little bit.
Or
at the very least, it would cause a hernia. If I know a goddamn thing about anime.
Our characters are talking, and the girl here is refreshingly forward, and she's like, "So I heard you had a girlfriend and then you broke up, so you should go out with me instead because I really like you." And there's like
and she's unambiguous about like, "I'd like you to date me with marriage in mind." It's like, yeah. I want this to be a serious relationship too, not just like, let's go out for coffee or something.
Yeah. There's some discussion about what happened with his previous girlfriend, and so like first we get it from her perspective, how she hears about that and hearing the nurses gossip because he's always in the hospital because his cousin's there and he's visiting his cousin, but the nurses won't tell the girl about his cousin because confidentiality, but they will gossip about the boy who comes to visit and his girlfriend. And we also get a little bit of like this girl being in the hospital, and kind of learning about her and what ails her. And so then the girl's like, "So how did you break up?" And he's the boy. I don't know which one of these characters is supposed to be the main character. Probably both of them.
Both
to an extent. Yeah, the guy, male lead, is like, "We were out walking one night and nothing phases my girlfriend, but then a kappa jumped out of the water and was real scary looking." And so
I believe we have a soundbite for this, Dean.
Oh yes, we absolutely do.
Thank you.
My girlfriend doesn't get scared by anything, but she got scared by this, and she clung to me, and then the coward ran away, and she said, "I didn't realize you were that kind of a guy," and so she broke up with me. And so then our female character's like, "But you're being misleading here. It wasn't you who was the coward and ran away. It was the kappa. Saw you, got scared, and ran away. And your girlfriend didn't realize you were the kind of person that scared monsters. And so that's why she broke up with you." And our main character's like, "Yeah, but kappas aren't real, you idiot. Obviously, I'm not telling you the truth." And our female lead is like, "But you're wrong." And so then the next day they're together again, and the female, No, wait, hang. The female lead is like, you should look up 11 years ago the story of me, the person with my name, who disappeared and then was found on a park bench missing one leg and one eye. And she's like, I was kidnapped by the yokai, and so now I can see yokai, and I'm their goddess of wisdom. And so then the next day they meet back up, and our main character is like, I was able to find that something happened with the girl with your name, but I wasn't able to prove that you were captured by yokai. And the girl's like, maybe I'm just a sad, broken girl traumatized by the things that someone did to my body when I was kidnapped. And then what happens? They go to the library. Why do they go to the library? I don't remember what propels them to.
Oh, the ghost that she meets on the bus is like, by the way, something horrible's happening at the library.
Oh,
and
right.
then the two of them are hanging out after he did his research, and that human starts running at them that turns into a tanuki. And the tanuki is like, by the way, the seal in the library is completely broken, and it's a really horrible yokai in there that you're going to have to deal with, please. And then she starts running off toward the library, and she's like, by the way, boyfriend Sean, you're coming with. And he goes.
Because of course he does, because she's cute. And so there's a yokai.
And has one leg.
Kawaii!
Yeah.
Oh, I think he actually did try to walk away from it, and she's like, "Nope, you're coming." It's like, okay,
Yeah.
She pulls the reverse tsundere. You wouldn't be able to deal with yourself. If
Oh yeah, she like kind of guilts him into it. It's like, yeah, I guess you're right. I would have some regrets if I let you die. So here we go.
So there's a yokai there that's real big and scary looking, and it's not listening to her, and it's oh, I forgot to mention all yokai are scared of male lead, which is why the girl knew what actually happened with the kappa. Anyways, this yokai at the library is too distracted to even notice that our male lead is there and be scared of him. So there's like a pseudo fight sequence, but it's like what you'd expect from humans fighting a yokai. It's pretty believable, a little acrobatic, but not like shonen shit. Anyways, it doesn't work. The girl can't beat the yokai. So our main character like wraps his arm around her and pulls her off to the side and lets the yokai eat his arm, and then the yokai explodes. And he's like, huh, so my flesh really is poison to them.
And his arm grows back too.
His arm grows back, yeah. And the girl's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And he's like, oh, I thought you'd figured it out. I'm poisonous to yokai. And she's like, but how? And he's like, when I was younger, I ate all the flesh I could of 2 different yokai. And that's where it ends. I really liked this show.
Same.
Like a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was okay. It just felt like it felt very meandering, which isn't a bad thing necessarily, but it felt like it. There were a couple of moments during the show that I was like, come on, let's get to the point. Because this is taking too long, and you guys are neither of you seem interested in the conversation you're having. So can we just move along?
That's a fair take. I just happen to disagree with it because I thought the
Yeah.
pacing was actually really good and the dialogue was pretty engaging. Like the characters were fun.
Yeah,
to me.
I liked watching the characters interact because they actually had like character and personality. And
It actually reminded me a little bit, like it's not the same personalities per se, but it reminded me of Bunny Girl Senpai and kind of like the chemistry that she and MC have.
Yeah, it absolutely feels like that.
Like, while I didn't dislike this show, I was ready to drop this show like a sack of potatoes, and then the last 2 minutes happened, and I was like, well, yeah,
I guess I'm not.
Episode 2
oh, see,
is happening soon.
yeah, this show is like full romance just between these 2 characters, which is real interesting to me as someone who really enjoyed Oh, son of a biscuit. The 4chan VN. The name's
You've
not
mentioned
coming to
before.
me.
I forget the name of it. Yeah.
Yeah, anyways. I was real about this being a romance, and then it was like supernatural action romance, and now I'm real heckin' on board.
I was really comfortable with how forward female Chan is.
I
in the
actually
show.
liked that a lot too.
Mm-hmm.
I did enjoy that interaction between the characters. When he pulls her super close to protect her from the rampaging yokai, she's like, "Oh, I didn't realize you were going to be so forward. We can take care of this in the bedroom later." And like I appreciated that interplay, but I wasn't ready to commit to watching more of this show. And then exactly after that happens, and I was like, well, I need to know what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's also like a really cool shift in dynamic right at the end too, because like she's been kind of like in almost like a teasing sort of way, like, you know, really openly into him, and he's kind of like, you know, trying to play it off or whatever, but then suddenly, like, I don't want to say that she becomes scared of him, but she's like kind of suddenly like concerned and like taken aback by like what he is, and then
She's
he
not
kind
sure
of like
about
also
him anymore.
and then he kind of turns a little bit darker to like, okay, now that you've seen the monster, I can like kind of like come out. Like I can sort of like show this side of me a little bit more, and like not in kind of like the edgy, like, you don't understand my dark past kind of way that you have in so many like teen romance.
My right arm has a demon in it. Like,
yeah, that's something very different. But it's not like the like I'm actually just a monster, no one can love me kind of deal. But like just kind of like a like I'm something different. And so like I kind of also appreciated that shift that happens too. It was well done.
There's a really interesting undertone question mark of social commentary that's happening there, where throughout the entire run time of this episode, she's being asked by the yokai and the spirits around her, what do you see in him? He's terrifying. Stay away from him. He's bad for you. Don't do this. And she's like, oh, he's so easy on the eyes and I really like him, and let's go to bed and we'll take care of this later. And then, the fuck are you?
Oh,
It's all of this, like,
now I get it.
Exactly. And that was interesting too.
I think part of the reason that I thought this thing was so slow is because it's mostly set up.
Yeah.
Like, this is a lot of setup. And that's why I don't want to be hard on this show, because I know it's got a lot to offer. It's just this first episode felt like a drag to me.
It's a lot of two people just standing there and talking.
Which I don't hate inherently.
Like, so for me, I can definitely see your point there, Dean. Like, for me, it just happened to be that the writing struck me as good enough, and the subject matter struck me as interesting enough that I was the slower pace felt fine because I was engaged. But if you weren't really engaging with it, then the slower pace is going to come across as boring. So I can definitely see that.
I don't want to say I wasn't engaging. I feel like I wasn't meeting it on its level. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I was judging it as a show that it wasn't. Like, when I was sitting there watching it, I felt like I was judging it as the show that it's not claiming to be.
Kind of like me in Somali. Like, you kind of see like what it seems to be or what it seems to, and it's like you kind of come to it a little bit cynical, and then it's like if it's not really grabbing you, it's not going to turn you kind of deal.
Right.
So yeah.
So I kind of felt that. That said, I think they have a very interesting story to tell here. I don't like these characters. Pointing out Mai is an interesting thing. I don't like these characters as much as I like Mai. And
that's fair.
Of course, Mai is best girl forever and all time. But like I
notice we're just letting that one go.
Yeah, you're not gonna. You've
been down this road before.
I know. No one agrees with me, but Mai is the best, and I love her.
I mean, she's great. To be fair,
she's wonderful. Yeah, I don't know. It's just I think I just wasn't meeting it on its level, which happens sometimes. I remember the first time I watched the Wolverine. I watched it in theaters, and it was like I just came out of it like, bleh. And then I watched it again at home, and I was like, "Oh, this is actually not bad. Like, there's a couple of weird beats, but this isn't a bad movie at all. I just wasn't into it. That I feel like that's kind of how I felt watching this. I was like, I don't want this right now."
Well, shall we get into ratings?
Yeah, let's do that.
Were you gonna say something, Adam?
I just wanted to know if anyone else caught the title of the book that the dead soldier was reading. The romance novel.
I remember vaguely what it was. It was like something about like romance, or like you can imply that it was like maybe erotic fiction or something like that. I didn't catch the actual title.
Oh yeah, it was a Harlequin book.
Mm-hmm.
It was a Harlequin book titled "Love That Makes You Love."
Okay. Things that make you go,
It was cute. I don't know. Shut up. Shut up.
Shut up. I don't have a heart.
All right. Ratings for this show. Inspector, episode 1, Eat the Rich. Did the premise interest you? Yeah. Yeah. Did the production impress you? Was it impressive?
It looked good, but it didn't do anything particularly special, I didn't think.
I don't know. I think you're right. I'm just trying to think like the character models were actually pretty detailed, and there was still a decent amount of movement.
It's pretty consistent throughout.
It was pretty consistent. Yeah.
Some interesting monster designs, some pretty good environments. I think, and like not to affect your rating, but I think that it doesn't quite reach impress. It was just good. I mean, very good, but not.
Yeah, that's
not
what I was
impressive.
thinking too. Like it's good, but it's not quite impressive. So I'm not going to give it a point. The storytelling impressed me. Yes, I'm going to give it a point here because, like Chris said, I was invested the entire time, and then the last 2 minutes happened, and it was great. Did I enjoy the first episode? Yes. And am I interested to see more? Yes. So a 4 for me. Adam?
Inspector episode 1, Goddess of Wisdom or Goddess of Manipulation? Alternate.
Both.
Alternate title, I don't want to get yelled at by Winston, so I'll say yes if something wants to make me a god. I asked Redemption if that was too obscure. I hope other people catch that reference. Anyways, did the premise interest me? It did. It was an interesting enough premise. Did the production impress me? It was nice, but no, not enough. Then to the point of the monsters, I play a lot of Shin Megami Tensei games. And so in that shot of all of the different monsters begging her to become their goddess, I recognized 0 of them. And that's why I'm not giving this a point. I recognized the Kappa immediately. I was like, oh, it's a Kappa. Okay, perfectly good. But none of the other monsters, so... Anyways. Storytelling, yes. Did I enjoy the first episode? Like I said, I was ambivalent. I was willing to drop the show, and then the last 2 minutes of the episode happened. I'm like, well, yeah. So I'm giving this a 4 out of 5 with the same 0 that Ryan had.
And Chris?
Inspector episode 1, she's a one-eyed, one-legged, walking purple spirit greeter. Or alternatively, a deep cut that I might have to explain. Inspector episode 1, it is Wednesday, my dudes. All right, so a little explanation for that one. If you're familiar with the book or show American Gods, Wednesday is a character because he is Odin in disguise, and so you're not calling him Odin, you're calling him Wednesday because Wednesday is named after Odin's Day, right. Wednesday. And so she gave up one eye to gain wisdom, just like Odin did. So it is Wednesday, my dudes. Anyway, the first one's probably funnier. So did the premise interest me?
I like a game in reference.
I'm gonna have to say probably not. Just because like the idea of supernatural romance has been done many times and usually not very well. So I think that going into it, like in the same way that I kind of went into Smalley a little bit cynical, I think I might have gone to this a little bit cynical. Not quite so much, but then it very quickly turned me around. So Premise did not interest me. Did the production impress me? No, because like I said, very, very good, not impressive. But yes, the storytelling did impress me. I did enjoy the first episode, and I am interested to see more. So that's going to be a 3 overall, which sounds like a low score for something that I really, really enjoyed.
And Dean.
Yes. Scenario interest. I'm sorry, I don't have a title for this one. Scenario interest. I think I would be interested in this. I really enjoyed Bunny Girl. And this is kind of that. I like supernatural stuff enough. I think it actually would get a point for scenario interest from me. Production, not gonna give it a point there. Storytelling, okay, if I meet it halfway between like my mindset while watching it and what I actually got from it, as far as the actual storytelling and pacing and things like that, if I meet it halfway there, it still doesn't reach the level that I would give it a point for. So I'm not gonna give it a point for storytelling, even though it might deserve it.
Yeah.
Did I enjoy it? I did enjoy it. I didn't hate it. I wasn't sitting there like, damn, this sucks. There were moments that were fascinating. There were moments that were interesting. There were moments that were really fun. There were moments where I was like, come on, let's move it along. Let's finish this conversation so we can get to some plot development, please. But overall, I think I enjoyed it, probably. I don't know if I'm interested to see any more of this. I want to give it a chance because it has all the trappings of a show that I would like.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I really, really want to give it a chance. Which means I probably will watch more of it. So I guess that's a yes on that one. So that would be what, 1, 2, 3? Yeah.
That brings our total score for this show to a 14 or 70%. That was the last show we have to talk about, which means it's time for the tournament arc.
We interrupt this program to bring you an important message. Tournament arc! Tournament arc!
Hi! It's a fucking tournament arc! Tournament arc!
I forgot to go clip the ASMR tournament arc from last episode.
Oh, yeah. I need to
'cause
pull it down.
That's something we need.
Yep.
How does the tournament arc work?
Here's how it works.
Welcome to the AniFiles tournament arc, which will determine our most and least watchable shows of the season. Right now, we're in the round robin stage, where each of the shows in today's group will be matched up against every other show, and we'll vote for which of the 2 shows we would rather watch, not necessarily which one is objectively better. The show with more votes wins, and ties are possible. The 2 shows with the best win-loss record will advance to our 12-show playoffs at the end of the season, and the grand champion will be required viewing for our hosts prior to the season recap. The show with the worst win-loss record today will advance to our 6-show losers bracket, and our host will also be forced to watch the winner of that bracket, our least watchable anime of the season, prior to our season recap. Now, without further ado, let's kick off round 1 of today's group play. All right, our first matchup of the day is going to be Inspector versus Hatena Illusion. Which would you rather watch?
Inspector.
Inspector.
And same, so that's 4-0 in favor of Inspector. Round 1, matchup number 2, we have Somali and the Forest Spirit versus Bofuri. I don't want to get hurt, so I'll max out my defense.
Bofuri, surprising nobody.
I think Somali.
Somali.
And I think I'm going to say Bofuri, so that is a 2-2.
Tie!
You have a button for that, don't you?
We do have a tie button. It's this one.
My soundboard isn't working again.
All right, round one, matchup number 3. We have number 24 versus ARP Backstage Pass.
ARP.
Oof.
ARP.
Yeah.
Why don't you understand that anime belongs in the trash?
I think of those two, probably ARP.
Yeah, this is kind of a weird one because I feel like number 24 was like the better story, quote unquote, but ARP I think it was a more enjoyable watch, so I'm going to go with ARP. So I'd say 4-0 in favor of ARP.
It's also a shame because number 24 is actually an anime. ARP
Right.
is some weird not anime thing that's on Crunchyroll because it got miscategorized. I don't.
I mean, it is an anime. It's also just it really blurs that line. So anyway,
Yeah.
round 2, matchup number 1, we have Bofuri versus number 24.
Bofuri.
Bofuri.
Buffery.
And same. So that's a 4-0 in favor of Bofuri. Round 2, matchup number 2, ARP Backstage Pass versus Inspector.
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 Inspector. So that's a 4-0 in favor of Inspector. Round 2, matchup number 3, Hatena Illusion versus Somali and the Forest Spirit.
Katana.
Somali.
I appreciate how difficult this bracket is on Ryan's facial expressions.
Hatena. I think just barely. I think for me, watching more Somali is I'm not going to care because I don't like Somali. And she's annoying. And while there are annoying characters in Hatena, there's also some like what's going on with her mom.
There's some intrigue and some
Yeah,
potential
intrigue.
magical thievery.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know that I'd be super interested in either of these. However, Hatena, like Somali, I feel like I know what it is. It's just going to be continuing to be that. Hatena, I think, has yet to show us its full hand, and so I'm kind of more interested to see what does this magical girl thievery look like before I then decide if I don't care. So I'm going to go ahead and say Hatena. So as a 3-1 in favor of Hatena. Surprising. Round 3, matchup number 1, we have ARP Backstage Pass versus Bofuri.
I mean,
Bofuri.
Yeah. Yeah, Bofuri.
Buffery.
And same. So that's a 4-0 in favor of Bofuri. Round 3, matchup number 2, we have number 24 versus Hatena Illusion.
Hatena.
Katana.
Hatena.
And same. That's a 4-0 in favor of Hatena. Round 3, matchup number 3, we have Inspector versus Somali.
Inspector.
Ooh.
Yeah, this is difficult for you, Dean, because you actually liked Somali a lot.
I liked Somali quite a bit.
Inspector for me.
If I'm gonna judge based on which one seems to have the most potential going forward, I think I'll
Then
have to
you're
go with
going
Inspector.
to say Inspector. Yeah.
I think I have to go with Inspector. In fact, I think I gave Inspector interested to see more, and I didn't give that to someone. So.
Gotcha. And I'm also going to say Inspector. That's a 4-0 in favor of Inspector. Round 4, matchup number 1, we have Somali and the Forest Spirit versus number 24.
Somali.
Hang on. Sorry, what was the
Somali versus number 24.
Somali?
And same. That's a 4-0 in favor of Somali. Round 4, matchup number 2, we have Hatena Illusion versus ARP Backstage Pass.
ARP.
Hatena.
Hatena.
think we have to say the same. That's a 3-1 in favor of Hatena. Round 4, matchup number 3, Bofuri versus Inspector.
Inspector.
Bofuri.
You said Bofuri,
Inspector.
Adam?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. And I'm also going to say Inspector, so that is a 3-1 in favor of Inspector. Our 5th and final round kicks off with ARP Backstage Pass versus Somali and the Forest Spirit.
Somali.
ARP.
Somali.
I'm also going to say Somali, so that's a 3-1 in favor of Somali. Round 5, matchup number 2, we have Inspector versus number 24.
Inspector.
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 And same, 4-0 in favor of Inspector. And our final matchup of the day is Bofuri versus Hatena.
Bofuri.
Bofuri.
I think same.
And same for me, so that's a 4-0 in favor of Bofuri.
All right. Surprising no one. Our least watchable show with a perfect 0-5, number 24. Oh, also that will be advancing in the losers bracket.
Sorry, guys.
Our
At
second,
least the idol show didn't end up there.
our second least watchable show also, well, I mean, maybe surprising someone.
Not really.
With a 1-4 ARP backstage pass. Our third least watchable show with a 2-1 Somali and the Forest Spirit. Our third most watchable show with a 3-2 Hatena Illusion. And advancing in the winners bracket, our second most watchable show with a 3-1-1 Bofuri. And our most watchable show with a perfect 5-0 Inspector.
That's a really strange breakdown of this bracket.
I don't know.
I think it's about right.
Inspector was really, really gripping at the end.
I guess maybe the surprise is that Somali, which a lot of people are probably going to see as like the objectively good show, ended up being
Right.
4th.
Right. And then
Yeah, that's-
Hatena above
Hatena
Bofuri
above.
seems weird to me too.
Bofuri is above Hatena.
Well, which one's Hatena? Hatena above
Hatena's 3.
Somali.
Oh, above Somali,
Above
yeah.
Somali. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And
That ended up being a little
I
surprising.
don't know. It just seems like I don't know. I don't know. I do not know.
I think that for that, just Hatena has more potential for interesting story than what you know is going to happen.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somali is going to get separated from the golem at some point, and the golem is going to show that it has emotions against some sort of non-human thing.
Yeah, I don't know how Somali's going to surprise me in any way. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes like a straightforward, unsurprising story can be told really well and be really touching. The first episode isn't going to be any indication that it's going to do anything remarkable.
Yep.
We've had a few really good shows this season though. I think Inspector has the potential to be really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
We've had
Somali the most was the golem's eye, which was amazing when it was revealed to like identify the rocks and all of that. And then when the girl goes missing and the golem like finds a really tall chapel to stand on and opens its eye and uses its assassin eagle sight, I was just like, oh, okay, this is a magical do anything button. That sure, whatever.
Suddenly,
a little bit.
Suddenly it's
I kind of
Golem's Creed.
imagined that he was up there and like his vision looks like Terminator vision but green, where it's like scanning the environment and information's popping up and like.
Yeah, it's eagle vision from Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
Or eagle sight.
Something that was kind of interesting that we didn't talk about during the review is in the beginning, he talks about how he doesn't interfere with the course of nature. He's just there to protect it. And so, and he also talks about how, like, you know, I know that like my, you know, reason for being is to be this guardian. And after 1,000 years, I'm going to pass away, just like the forest will eventually pass away after me. And so he's got like this very sort of like objective view of like, if anyone's going to say there's no meaning in the world, it's probably going to be this golem.
Oh yeah, he's got a Dr. Manhattan view of things.
And so it's kind of neat. Like they could do some interesting stuff with like kind of his observation of society and stuff like that in the world. And so, yeah, but anywho.
Yeah. Well, this has been episode 85 of AniFiles.
It has.
We are available on Apple Podcasts or wherever great podcasts are distributed. We live stream the show on Twitch, twitch.tv/Exercy. And I upload the VODs to YouTube. The channel is AniFiles. If you like the show, you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/AniFiles. And we have a Discord where we have resolved to be more active and post our thoughts about shows there as we're watching them instead of our private our private chat. So if you want podcast spoilers, or if you want to see me, Dean, or Chris just rage about anime, that's
Rage is a strong word.
Rage is a thing that I and Dean do.
That's fair.
Dean and I, technically. Link in the show notes in the description, or !Discord in Twitch chat. And you can follow us on Twitter @FilesAnnie. This show is a product of Alternative Internet Radio. You can find us and our other great shows at airad.io, and you can follow the network @AltNet Radio. Adam, thank you for being a guest. Where can people find you?
Thank you for having me again. I look forward to this episode. I hope you continue to have me back. Fewer technical issues this time than previously. You can find me on this podcast once a season, episode C.
Yeah.
Unless otherwise noted, yes.
You can find me on Twitter @Invarial, and you can find me on Discord, twitch.tv. No, not on Discord. You can find me on Discord, good luck. But you can find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Invarial, where I play video games sometimes.
I've been your host, Ryan. You can find me on Twitter @Exercy and on AnyList user Exercy. Chris, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter @KRUEGER_Chris. You can also hear some of my past podcasting work on the backward-compatible.com podcast, Games and New Media with a Splash of Academia, and the Doc and Kruger Cast, the official podcast of Doc and Kruger Games. And I would like to take this opportunity to remind everyone that we are doing a contest this season here on AniFiles. Tune into every episode if you can, because at the end of the season, when we do our tournament arcs, we will be taking predictions, and whoever gets the highest score on their predictions will win a custom AMV made by yours truly. So bearing in mind that we reserve the right to turn down a song or anime based on content or whatever other reasons we feel like turning it down for, within reason, we will make you a custom AMV, pick an anime, pick a song, and it will happen.
Yeah. And Dean?
We are unlikely to set Nazi rock music to hentai.
Unlikely does not mean won't.
No, it does mean won't.
I am Dino. You can find me on Twitter @DeanOFiles. You can find my show Dean. God damn it, Imperial. You can find my show Dino Files on Alternative Internet Radio or wherever podcasts are distributed. You can read the things that I write sometimes at the Rogue File, roguefile.com.
We will be back. Well, we haven't actually finalized our special yet. So we'll be back in 2 weeks. Either for the special or for Group D. Hey, we need to hammer that out with Dean after this.
Yes, we do. We do. I was gonna send him a message today, actually, since we're exactly 2 weeks out.
All right, cool. So probably we'll be back with our special in 2 weeks.
Possibly with Bird. Bird is the one who wants to do the show. He wants to. Bird would love to talk about JoJo.
Yeah.
So maybe we do a
we'll talk about
something relating to favorite anime or something.
Yeah. Talk about JoJo and other.
It's the JoJo special. We just watched the first episode of several different JoJos.
Are they JoJo's or are they Joe's Joe?
Hmm.
From what I understand, there are multiple JoJo's.
Joe's.
JoJo's.
I'm gonna come in just having
No,
watched the
no.
first episode
Bobo,
of the
no,
old
Bobo.
1980s G.I. Joe show.
Joe.
Jar Jar's Jar Jar Jar.
Get out of here, J.J. Abrams.
All right, AniFiles cast members. Let's say our catchphrase. I
learned a lot from you.
Okay, and then
Spot on.
Yeah.
As always.
I actually got some going live notifications for some people I might want to host, so let me check Twitch real fast and see. Nope, they're not online anymore. Cool.
Well, thanks to everyone watching on Twitch. Thanks to everyone listening to this on YouTube in about 3 weeks or whenever it gets uploaded. Thanks for just,
Thanks again to J Chalk for the raid.
Yes, absolutely.
And everyone that came in from his
yep.
stream. I guess I could throw us over to like a small Overwatch streamer, but I don't watch Overwatch streams anymore. I don't care. I'm just gonna end stream. You guys
Okay.
Go find another streamer.
Go support someone somehow.
Support someone.
Yeah. Throw somebody some bits.
Yeah. Or don't.